change this empty trap line of a media time to adapt. They try to control us with their lies and their schemes, but I'm a rise above, fulfill my wildest dreams. The beat be bang, the rhymes be tight, trap rap flowing through the darkest night. But don't mistake me for the sellouts on the screen. I'm spitting truth for you can question what you've seen. Mind over media, break free from the mold. Trap rap revolution, we taking control. No one more puppets, strings, we standing tall. With every word I speak, I'll make them all fall.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Let's Talk Live here on the LTL Media channel. I want to welcome everybody in, and it was a crazy, almost overwhelming day of testimony. If you notice, I'm back to the roots. I'm back in the bedroom tonight. And the reason I'm here is I went over to the studio and it was blazing hot in there. And I let you guys know they're actually installing AC in the next 2 weeks over there. I walked in the studio, it was like 90 degrees. I'm like, nope, going home. So back in the bedroom, hanging out. We're going to have Natalie come in here in a second and just talk to us about the Karen Read case from a defense lawyer's point of view. But I want to show you something that when I saw this video, I was like, I know I have to have Natalie on the channel. And this is really what kind of like set things off. So let me pull this up. I'm kind of back to my old angle tonight. So I'm going to try to look as best as I can here. But when I saw this video and I saw this reaction, I was like, I have to get Natalie on the channel. I'm going to play this really quick. This is really
I
awesome.
love it. I love it. That is perfectly put. I did my best to like kind of give like a textbook explanation of what an opening should be, especially for a prosecutor. But that example that Kurt gave is exactly right. There's so much emotional appeal in this case. There was no reason for that opening to be like that. Let's see what the defense does with their case. Let's go ahead.
Karen Read was framed.
Yes!
Pause!
See what I'm saying?
Hell fucking yeah! That's how
That's
you
it.
open
That's
it.
it. That's it. That's it. It's not complicated. That's it.
Not.
This case is about X. Karen Read was framed. Fantastic. You got it.
That's the theme. It's you start with a theme. What did we see in? You didn't like Daybell prosecution's opening, the most recent trial, but
all right, I'm not gonna go on too much longer here. Let's bring Natalie in. I think we started to show off great. Natalie, welcome to LTL Media. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. Oh my goodness. Please, no, I was jamming to your intro in the green room.
I seen you bobbing your head.
That's the most fabulous YouTube intro I have ever seen in the history of ever. Oh, that was great.
But welcome to, like I said, welcome to Let's Talk Live here on LTL Media. Thank you so much for doing this. I know, like, I kind of reached out and you're probably like, who is this guy? But I was like, you know what? She's talking Karen Read. I loved that reaction. I'm like, I have to have her on the show. And, but thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here and happy to talk to anybody about Karen Read. You know, for me, I'm new to this case. I don't know anything about the case until the testimony started. And so everything is blowing me away.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about you and give us a little bit of your background.
Sure. So I'm originally from Queens, New York. I'm the daughter of Jamaican immigrants. I went to law school and started practicing in the state of Maryland as a public defender in 2011. I did that from 2011 until present. I still do that. So I've been practicing law for 12, almost 13 years now. And then when I was in college, I made like a beauty YouTube channel for literally for like the girls that used to do their hair and makeup and stuff. I made one of those and I got up to 4,000 subscribers. And then when I graduated from college, I said, this is stupid. Like, I'm not going to do that. And then years and years and years later, I meet my husband, and he looked me up and said, "I found your old beauty YouTube channel. You should do a YouTube channel, but for lawyers." And I was
Yeah.
like, "That's a great idea." And that's what started me reviving my channel and changing the name, and it's now Natalie Lawyer Chick.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny how we all start. I mean, I literally started as this channel as a car channel for BMW owners. I was like really a huge enthusiast. Started
Mhm.
that, and then I was in the wristwatch industry for like 16 years, and I'm like, why am I doing, so I
Mhm.
transitioned to watches, and then all of a sudden I've always loved like true crime and human
Yeah.
fascination stories, and I was like, you know what, this is my niche, this is where I have to be. So
Mhm.
anyway, can you tell me some of like the common misconceptions people may have about defense lawyers
Oh, yeah.
and like the work
Well,
they do?
yeah, so I think I can first just speak more particularly to public defenders, which is the type of defense attorney I am, that because we're paid by the state, we're in cahoots with the prosecution. That's a very huge misconception.
Mhm.
Huge misconception. Trust me, the vibes and the animosity and the adversarialness, it's real, right? But anyway, a big one about us is that we're like smarmy and we want to defend monsters and stuff like that. And that's not it at all. A lot of us are just in it, especially those that are public defenders, to help poor people and
Mhm.
also to enforce the Constitution, which gives everybody the right to a really good attorney. So, yeah, I think those are some common misconceptions.
Awesome. Thank you. So all right, so we're here to talk Karen Reed. Everybody wants to talk about Karen Reed. I
Right.
mean, I'm a huge Karen Reed supporter. I'm down in, down there at the courthouse when I can be there in between work. I've been supporting this case since probably about September of last year. And
Mhm.
you said you're fairly new to the case. So it's actually
Mhm.
kind of cool to hear a different perception of that because I've been so engrossed in it for almost a year and you're just coming in.
Mhm.
Tell me, your reaction to this. Like, what do how I have a feeling of how you're siding in this and what you're
Mhm.
seeing, but I think
Mhm.
it's absolutely been a dumpster fire for the Commonwealth so far. And
Mhm.
I'd love to hear what you think and your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I mean, outside of some minor points that the Commonwealth has scored, they're doing quite poorly in this trial. And I am not understanding why they did not do further investigation. It seemed as though the prosecuting office was just hell bent on not looking at any alternative suspects because I guess the idea was just ludicrous or something. Is that me echoing? Had oh yeah, okay. Had I don't know. Is it ah I I'll just leave it there. I'll leave it there. I feel like the prosecution is not doing a good job. I feel as though there's plenty of reasonable doubt, and I feel that they had the opportunity to look into these people, the Alberts, the McCabe's, and see, what was going on there, and they failed to do it. And I just do not understand why. And I find it very, very disappointing. This case should not go to trial right now with the evidence that they have. They certainly need to do further investigation. This is very, very sad.
Yeah, I like I said, I've been very, very head over and really deep in this case. And if it wasn't for Aiden Turtleboy Carney to really start doing this case back in April of last year, and really peeling this open and showing the cover up and corruption that we all believe in here, and there's a lot of evidence that's showing that. I know that we were speaking in the green room just before we came live, and I know you didn't get the opportunity to see a lot of the testimony today. And I said one of the
Mhm,
star witnesses for the Commonwealth was on the stand, Jennifer McCabe. She's been there the
mhm,
last 2 days or so. And
mhm,
I just find it just so interesting that they're literally showing a Cellbrite document that shows
mhm,
these Google searches. And
mhm,
obviously, the one that we've heard about is the 2:27 a.m., where she's
mhm,
claiming that she did not do that. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to this,
mhm.
um, how accurate data is in cases. I mean, She's flat out just saying, I did not do that. And this
Yeah.
is a software that the FBI uses to convict
Yeah.
people.
Absolutely. And that's another reason why they should not have brought this case in the condition that it's in, because this could have widespread consequences for defendants in Massachusetts, because the prosecution, the police, the state arm of the government, right, that enforces the law, they rely heavily on these Cellbrite data extractions. And it is near impossible to disqualify the expert who extracts the actual phone under Daubert or Fry Reed. So it's really, really hard to try and say that whoever extracts the phone got it wrong in some way, because that's how accurate it's seen to be in the courts. You have to have a really, really compelling reason to say that things are being, tampered with or whatever. So let me leave it there. I just feel I keep saying that, but it's like I then want to go like off on a tangent. So let me not go off on a tangent. Yeah.
For sure. If I can back up a little bit, and I want to go back to your video that we just showed, and I loved your reaction to that. And I was like, I got to get her on the show.
Oh, thanks.
Can you explain to like the audience how important opening and closing statements are in a trial?
Oh, wow. They're so important. So, you've got your opening statement and then your closing argument. So, the opening statement is important because it sets the tone for the trial, and it gives the jury a roadmap of what they should expect to see during the trial, and then kind of hints at the conclusion that they should draw, which is either if you're the prosecution, guilty, and if you're the defense, not guilty. What was the second part of your question?
No, I'm just saying, like, how important are opening and closing?
Closing. It was no, I only did opening. I was like, I'm missing one. Closing. So closing is so important because it's the last thing the jury hears. Sorry about this, guys. If you were with me yesterday, I'm exhausted. So with your closing arguments, that's the last thing that the jury is going to hear. And so that's going to frame how they hear the evidence and interpret it when they're back there deliberating, and you want them to reach your conclusion, and you get to argue it conclusively that they must find the party either guilty or not guilty. So it's like the sandwich that holds the whole entire thing together. It's the bread. Like without it, it's not a sandwich. You need the opening, you need the closing, and they need to be fantastic. Here so far for the defense, their opening was fantastic.
It was the bomb. I mean, right there, Karen Reed was framed. I mean, that set the tone. And then they just said, this is how we're going to explain it, and we're going to show you. We're going to show that evidence to show that she was framed. I mean, it was like masterful. All right, so you're in a trial, and let's say, you've taken on you're in the Karen Reed trial. You're the defense lawyer for Karen Reed. You're now 3 weeks in. Let me ask you a question. As you're going through your cross and then listening to direct, and you're watching that jury, and I know this is probably a very hard question to answer, but do you think that you ever really get a feel for the jury if you know it's going your way? And I know that's probably a hard question to answer, but do you ever feel that you kind of know what way they're going, or maybe leaning on a certain day?
That's a complex question because a jury is kind of like its own little individual culture. Every 12 people is like its own individual culture, its own individual society, its own individual family. And so by that, I mean, all juries are different, but they seem to like form this type of like tenor and flavor to themselves. Like they become like certain types of jurors. So sometimes you'll get 12 people who are super interactive, everything you're saying, they're nodding, or they're frowning, or they're, shaking their head. And like, so you're getting facial expressions from them, and maybe even eye contact, maybe some giggles, maybe some eye rolls or something like that. So that's an expressive, emotive jury. And so you might be kind of overly comforted in thinking, this expressive jury, I know what I'm going to get with them. I know that they're with me or they're against me, right? But that is a naive point of view, because your jury can be all up in your face, like smiling at you and, like giving you the head nod, like that's a good point, writing it down, and come back and say, your client is guilty. It happens. Sometimes it's just they just like your personality, but they know your guy did it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can get a feel for the jury, but it depends on whether or not you're going to get an emotive jury or not, because there's nothing more unnerving than a completely quiet, expressionless, deadpan jury. And that happens. You'll just get 12 people staring at you like maybe they came to some agreement that they wouldn't make facial expressions, and you have no idea what they're thinking. You could think that they hate you, and then they give you a not guilty. So it really depends on, and I'm sure there's been some creators in the courtroom itself that has seen their facial expressions. So at least they'll be able to figure out whether or not the jury is like emotive and expressive.
Yeah, I've had some sources in the courtroom from day one, and also we have a couple of reporters that have been there as well. And their assumption, because they're very pro Karen Reed as well, is that the jury, again, this is just an opinion, the jury is really pulling to Karen's defense when they talk and not really engaging with the Commonwealth. I've heard, especially the last 2 days with Jennifer McCabe on the stand, that it was almost like this tennis match. They would watch the defense talk and look at her reaction, watch, and I've heard that they've also been taking very copious amount of notes. So they're very engaged, which is good.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'll say this, when they're like that, it makes me feel like I'm more confident that whatever decision they come to, they're getting it right, because they're taking everything so seriously. There really are some, like I said, juries that form a culture of kind of like laid back. They don't care. They don't have any facial expression. They're not taking any notes. And then you have the ones that seem to like be collaborating and talking to each other. You know what I'm saying? Like taking notes, being very, very attentive. And yeah. So, so we did have note taking then in from the jury. Oh, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
And then they're really engaged on the defense when the defense is asking the questions.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They've really been watching the defense. And like I said, the last 2 days, from what I've heard, my sources have told me that it's kind of been like this ping pong or tennis match. Like Jackson will talk, they'll look at Jennifer. Jackson will talk, they'll look at Jennifer. So they're really engaged in listening to that. So how would you feel about watching a little bit of testimony? I know you're very limited on time tonight.
A little bit of testimony. Yeah. So but still, I mean, okay, please.
You want to watch a little bit?
Yeah, I've been super excited to watch some. So please play.
All right. Tell me to pause at any point if you want to talk.
Okay.
And please don't feel bad. Just say pause.
Okay.
All right, we'll pull up a little bit of testimony here because I'm kind of excited to watch a little bit of this today too. All right, here we go.
Of telling that officer something that you thought was important, correct?
Correct.
Which officer was that?
Michael Lank.
And about what time did you ask Officer Lank to join you back at 34 Fairview?
I'm not sure. I know it was in the AM. I'm just not sure what time exactly.
Somewhere around 9 a.m. Does that sound about right?
Possibly.
Okay, so this literally, we're talking about just a couple of hours after the incident in question.
Correct.
Okay. Sergeant Lank came with Sergeant Gallagher, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Came back to the location at 34 Fairview and gave you an opportunity to provide whatever information you deemed relevant at that time to impart to him, correct?
Correct.
And isn't it true that at that time, you didn't tell Sergeant Lank that my client said, I hit him? What you said was that my client said, I hope I didn't hit him, correct?
No.
Did you want me to pause for reaction?
Yes, I'm sorry, but I know you said to tell you, but I was like, I don't want to make you pause.
No, it's all right. Just go pause.
Come on, lady. You're changing your story from asking, is it possible that she could have, or the people thinks that she did, to a declaration that she hit him. They're not the same. And there's just no good excuse for why this story changes.
All right, we play on.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Incident report page. So the second to the last, or third to the last page is Lank's report. Could you take a look at that report, just the face page, and tell me if that appears to be an incident report associated with this case. I know you didn't draft it, but do you recognize that that's an incident report from the police, Canton Police specifically?
Yes.
Could you turn to the tab that's the little light blue tab, maybe 3 pages from the end of that report?
Yes.
I'd like you to read that.
So real quick, one thing I noticed, Natalie, I always
Mhm.
find it funny. Jennifer Cabe always needs the documents in front of her. Can you just show me the document so I can refresh my mind? In my opinion, that is so she can keep this narrative up. So she's not going to get caught in a contradiction or a
Right.
lie. You know, I've noticed that a lot in her testimony. Well, if you just show me, if I can see the document, and then literally, I know there's points, and there's actually a point here Jackson makes. He'll go, "You literally just saw the document 5 minutes ago. You already forgot."
Right. And what she doesn't realize is that all this feigned memory loss, not only does that go to her credibility, but also if they actually believed in this memory loss, she's not a reliable witness because she can't remember anything, right?
Yeah, they do a good job of discrediting here. All right, moving on.
Oh
Paragraph
my
to yourself,
goodness.
if you wouldn't mind, please.
How am I going to keep the story straight? What do I do? What do I say?
And it's so improper.
Her wheels are spinning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do I say? What do I do? How do I explain this?
Right. Getting the story together.
Yeah, gotta get it together.
This woman just is not credible. Sorry.
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in.
Do you have that in mind?
I do, yes.
Okay, may I approach you on it? Yes.
You guys better like this video.
What you read just now appears to be a report of the incident in which Sergeant Lank came back to 34 Fairview to give you an opportunity to tell him whatever it was that you thought was important, correct?
Was that a full report or is that just an excerpt from it?
Well,
that paragraph?
Oh my God.
There is a full report of
Pause
that
it.
incident of Sergeant Lank going back.
You know what the question is. Answer the question.
Yeah.
The
Answer
fake
the que- is it
asking
a
for
full report?
clarification. Oh.
Oh, because it could, and I think she says it here, because if it's not a full report, it could be something that I said before or after it. I need to see the context. No, you need to keep your story straight. That's why you need to keep seeing the document.
No, you need to testify from memory, the memories
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
made up. Liar.
To 34 Fairview. Would you agree?
Well, that's not a full report of what I said, but if that's his full report, it's his full report.
Okay. And in this,
I'm going to pause this and say this as well. My perception of all of this, because they all lawyered up. They all got lawyers. I'm telling you right now and I'm going to take a guess here, and I may be wrong, but I'm just saying, in my opinion, I think that their lawyers are telling them now, distance yourself as far from these investigators. Say that that's what they wrote in their report. You know, they're the ones that wrote that, because you can see now they're all distancing.
Right. I see
report,
it.
what he writes that you said to him,
Objection.
the objection sustained. Isn't it true that what you actually told Sergeant Lank when he returned is that while driving around with her and Roberts looking for the victim, Miss Reed said something to the effect of, quote, "I hope I didn't hit him," end quote. Isn't that what you told him?
Yes, because she said that when we were driving around.
And then you went on to say,
Natalie,
that, quote, she, Karen Reed, made these statements again at the scene when the victim was discovered, correct?
Correct.
So,
And then
pause.
you went on to say,
So clearly you asserted this at 2 different places and you're just trying to limit it to one. You big old liar. She is lying.
big time. And then when she's getting confronted with all this, you notice her eyes go, you know,
And she gets such an attitude about it. Like it's not her that's lying.
very defensive. Ali, thank you so much for the gifted 10. I saw you gifted 10 earlier. Thank you so much for the gifted memberships. I'm just trying not to call up the supers too much because I know Natalie's sensitive to time tonight and I want to just be respectful of that, but we're going to keep rolling on. Thank you so much.
Karen Reed, I'm sorry, that you thought that Reed may have made these same statements in front of a police officer, but she was not sure, meaning you were not sure, correct?
I was not sure if she made what the police officers may have heard. That report is his recollection. My recollection is I told him that she said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. And I told him that he should ask the responders if they heard that, because it was a great possibility that they heard it as well.
But none of that, you'll agree, you just read the report, none of that is in his report.
That's a very brief report.
I didn't ask you if it was brief, I asked you if it was in it.
Right.
Correct.
And that's a report of a conversation that he had at 34 Fairview with you for the specific purpose of memorializing what you told him, correct?
Correct.
And what you told him, according to Sergeant Lank, is she said one phrase, I hope I didn't hit him, correct?
That's what's in the report.
All
And you
right.
said it.
And
You
again,
said
this was 2.5, 3 hours after the incident, not 2.5 years later, correct?
Correct.
Ms. McKay, we talked yesterday about this
This is so pathetic.
unrecorded meeting.
What's that, Natalie?
This is so pathetic.
Yeah.
She is so clearly a liar, and to sit there and stare in everyone's face and act like she's righteously indignant is insane to me.
I just thought like, listen, I wasn't going to give her that much credit, but I almost thought like she's going to come in and just fold that second day here. She's going to stick with her story and protect all those other people and stick with her story. And it's just like, you are lying. Like, you are lying.
That you had in front of Sergeant Lank's home on January 30th. Do you remember that conversation?
I remember the conversation, yes.
Have you had any other home visits with any other police officers involved in this case?
I went to drop off. It was not a visit. It was myself with Kerry Roberts dropping her daughter off. There was no involvement of Mike Lank on this day.
Have you been to the home, the personal residence of any other police officer involved in this case? Ever?
Yes.
Tell me who.
Kevin Albert.
Who else?
I went to Elizabeth Proctor, the wife of Michael Proctor's house.
Who does
And you know who Michael Proctor is, right, Natalie? Michael Proctor is the
trooper.
Yes, the trooper in this case. What?
She's had a sexual relationship with Michael Proctor and Mr.
No, she went to their house.
Oh,
She went to their house.
I see. She's been to the trooper's house.
Yes.
Who's investigating the case.
Yes.
And I'm sure this hasn't been disclosed anywhere.
Of course not, because Jackson's going to say it right now. I mean, come on. Like, this is what I mean, Natalie. I still get emails and messages, and they say, I'm crazy. And I'm like, what trial are you watching?
I'll tell you this. The idea of this widespread conspiracy, including like police officers and high-up people, makes people uncomfortable because, like these are their colleagues and stuff that you're talking about. So a lot of times they'll look at it and not take it seriously because it causes that cognitive dissonance,
You know what, Natalie? I have to say this, and I think I want to make sure that people understand, because I think there's a big misconception about, the Free Karen Reed supporters. Listen, I support law enforcement fully. Like, if something happens to me, I'm going to call them. But people have to understand, in every profession, there are bad people. It does happen, and I know it's very hard sometimes. And again, these are my words. I know it's very hard sometimes for people to accept that, especially when it comes to law enforcement. But stuff does happen. It does. I just want to pull this up real quick. Dave says, you think people would have learned from Amber Heard that looking at the jury when you answer doesn't help. I'm so glad you say that, Dave, because I say that constantly when I go through these reviews of the trial. All right, let's keep playing here.
Elizabeth Proctor lived with?
Michael Proctor.
So you actually went to Michael Proctor's personal residence, didn't you?
I did, yes.
That was in September of what year?
23. I went over.
23.
Yes.
Why'd you go to Michael Proctor's house
Yeah,
in September
why
of
were you there?
2023?
I met Elizabeth Proctor
Look at the jury.
in approximately July or August of 2023.
Wow.
We are two mothers that are being viciously
Oh,
terrorized
we're
and
being
harassed
attacked.
by social
Yep.
media.
The
We're
shock
being
and
attacked.
horror. Natalie, the shock and horror.
The horror.
The
We're
horror.
being that, like, on Twitter and on my stream last night. I was like,
Mhm.
every time she talks about how they're under attack, it's so clear that that's a canned line that they were taught to say, you
Mhm.
know?
Shock and horror.
They're
Yep.
just attacking me and my family.
Do you know, and you don't know because you said that you haven't watched this yet, and I'll give you a little preview.
Okay.
Judge comes in after from break and essentially says, we're striking the harassment conversations because it didn't come from Karen Reed. There's no evidence to say that it came from Karen Reed. And I was like, what?
Oh,
She actually weighed. Yeah,
whoa.
you'll see it when you play through. Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, but I've got thoughts on that's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. But she's allowed her to say that over and over again. So
It's interesting.
that could cause a mistrial.
Really?
Yes, because how could the jury unhear her saying that multiple times?
That's true.
Even when they're instructed to say, to, you know, hey, disregard that. But she kept saying the harassment, the harassment. She said
The
it was like every
horror.
single question. The horror.
The horror, how we say it here in Massachusetts. The horror.
Horror. I'm just a girl from Queens. We have a
Yeah, I was gonna
completely
say, if it
different
was a
accent.
New Yorker, you'd probably say the horror.
The horror, yeah. So I can't say it like you. I would say the horror, yeah.
All right, we'll keep playing here.
All
And you know what
right.
I'll do before you go, if we don't get to it, I
Mhm.
will go and just to clarify, because I could be wrong on that, but I could swear that she struck that down today.
Okay.
Things that were
Let me know when we
stated
gotta go.
in this courtroom and allegations that were made have torn our lives upside down. We
Oh, you're
received
such a
hate
victim.
letters saying that they
I'm
hope
asking you
things.
why. I know you want to give a narrative.
She gets to answer this, Mr. Jackson. The door is
No.
open.
Yeah.
Your Honor,
It's odd. She lets her answer
Disagree.
it. Yeah. And then she essentially strikes it down later on. It was interesting.
she should answer the
Shouldn't
question
have done
why
that.
she went to the house as opposed to the narrative behind her motivation.
It sounds to me like she's explaining why she went to the house. The door was open, Mr. Jackson.
Go ahead.
No, it
We
wasn't.
receive letters, we receive emails, we receive calls. People drive by our house. There was a rolling
What does
rally
this have to do with
outside of my
Karen Reed?
house where people
Exactly.
just screamed at us. They take pictures of our children. They took a picture of my daughter and put semen on it and said property of some named blogger that I think the defense is very familiar with. So that is why.
Oh, no, that you think, oh,
Michael Proctor.
no. This is so prejudicial. You're accusing them of participating in harassing
Mm.
you.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
And it's on the record in front of a jury. This is
That's
interesting.
crazy.
It's
No, I don't
interesting.
think that the jury can unhear this. The jury has heard this. So even if
Now,
she says, okay, my ruling was wrong, well, then what's the remedy? You tell the jury to disregard those things that they heard over and over and over again, and then you reiterate it to them and then say, hey, forget that thing we kept talking about.
Yeah.
Oh,
What was I gonna say?
sorry. I didn't mean to
It's
overtalk
okay.
you. Mhm.
No. I want to see something because maybe we can get this clear. Let's see what she said. I'm gonna keep playing and I'm gonna try to queue up
Mhm.
where the judge comes in and says, "All right, wait a minute."
Proctor was not home. We are two
Hold the
mothers
pause when you're
trying
paused.
to get through the unthinkable together.
So you were upset about the public outrage concerning your family's involvement in the death of John O'Keefe.
I was outraged because I am a state witness that is being tortured because of lies.
Because of public
Oh.
outrage concerning your family's involvement in the death of a police officer, correct?
No, it's a social media witch hunt.
I see. So you decided that the best way for you to address that angst that you were feeling is to go to the lead investigator's home, personal home, in this case, correct?
I went to visit Elizabeth Proctor. Michael Proctor was not home.
So just like when you went to when you went to Sergeant Lang's house, and the only person you met with was his wife, when you went to Michael Proctor's house, your claim is the only person you met with was his wife.
All right, I'm going to pause it there. I did find where she comes in, and let's clarify this because I could be wrong, but I could swear judge comes in and says, all right, we're going to talk about this, what happened. So they come back from break, and this is what the judge said, and then we'll go back to testimony. But I wanted to get this clear and see what your take is on this. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Thank you. Please be seated. Quarterback.
Here what he said.
All right, so jurors, I waited until the last witness left the stand and until you all had your morning break to give you one other instruction. And this one, all the instructions are important, but this one's important, so I want you to focus on it. Now, you heard from the last witness, and you may hear from other witnesses who described what Ms. McCabe called harassment and public demonstration.
This is not enough.
To a rolling rally. I permitted that testimony for a very limited purpose.
But didn't they hear it? They heard it, right?
They heard it. Let me just hear the next little piece of what she's about to say.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Testimony was not offered, nor may you consider it as evidence that Ms. Reed has bad character or propensity to commit crime. In fact, there's no evidence before you that the defendant is responsible for that conduct that was described by Ms. McCabe. The evidence is relevant only insofar as it goes to the witnesses or to explain the witness's state of mind. So Ms. McCabe's state of mind. And that is to the extent it explains Ms. McCabe's conduct or statements or actions at any particular time. And ultimately, the testimony may be used by you only as it goes to the witness's credibility. Okay? Thank you very much. So, Mr. Lally.
All right. What's going on?
I think that's a very complex ruling. I think what she's saying is that the fact that she attributes harassment to Karen Reed can be used to say that she's not telling the truth because she has animosity to Karen Reed. They cannot, like the jury can find that if they want to. They cannot, however, find that just because these allegations are made against Karen Reed, Karen Reed is a bad person or Karen Reed committed the crime.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. Interesting though that she let her go on. She's like, go on.
She should not. I didn't like that.
Yeah, and then she went back to Jackson and said, "Well, you opened the door." So this is going to be interesting. All right, we'll play a little bit more here.
Okay. Yeah, let's go like 2 more minutes.
Not
No problem.
go.
If you got to bounce, that's cool. I'm probably going to stay with my crowd and
yeah, sure. Oh no, I would never be like, and now your stream is over. Nope.
But really, just real quick, we'll go about 2 more minutes. I just want to, again, thank you so much for doing this. I know you were up super late, and maybe we can have you back in a couple of weeks and go through some more testimony. But I appreciate
when I'm more awake and like, oh my goodness, you have no idea. It's been like the past week. I've barely gotten any sleep. I'm exhausted. But when I'm more awake, we'd have an even better stream. And you need to come on over to Natalie Lawyer Chick, bring your audience over, and I can introduce you to my people. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Anytime. You just email me and we'll set something up and come over. All right. You got like 5 more minutes in you?
Sure. I got 5 more minutes in me.
All right, cool. Here we go.
To Mike Lanks. It was not Jen going to Michael Lanks. It was Kerry Roberts dropping her daughter off, and I happened to be in the car with her. Elizabeth Proctor, I met with because we couldn't take the torture any longer.
And you were later asked about this unrecorded visit at Super Proctor's home by Massachusetts State Police, correct?
Can you remind me?
Sure. Did you have a conversation with a trooper by the name of Tully, who interviewed you specifically about your contact with Michael Proctor?
Could I see the report to refresh my memory?
Do you not remember having a conversation with Trooper Tully?
I've had many conversations over the last 2 years.
Tully?
over the last 2 years with the number of troopers.
Okay. Do you, all I'm asking you is, do you, and I've got a report that can refresh your recollection. I want to know, first of all, do you remember having a conversation about your relationship with Michael and Elizabeth Proctor with Trooper Tully?
I know I had a conversation with a trooper about it. I don't remember exactly which trooper.
Fair enough. May I approach?
Yes.
Can I see the report?
She just cannot testify from memory to save her life.
She's got to keep the lies straight.
She can't do it. Wow. Well, Brian, I'm calling it there.
Okay, no problem.
I hate to bring this to an end.
It's okay.
Wait, no, it seems like there's something fun coming up the way you're like on the edge of your seat. I'm like, I want to watch, but I also
I'm going to tell you, when you review the stream,
okay,
when you get to 227, you're just gonna, your mouth is gonna drop, and I'll leave it at that. So 227 is the 2:27 a.m. Google search. Wait till what Jen says about that.
Oh, is that like come later? Oh, I'm so missing out.
Later.
Okay, all right. So and I'll react to it, and then you'll get to double react. So I'll have you on the stream the next time I cover this. Okay.
Anytime, just email me. We'll set something up. And again, thank you so much for your time. I know you were up late last night. Get some rest, and you're welcome here anytime on LTL Media.
Thanks, Brian.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Take care. All right, we're gonna keep rolling through with testimony. I wanna go through this, so we'll roll through. All right, here we go.
The multi-page report.
Natalie, great. Thank you for doing that. Now
I'm gonna show this page.
we'll keep rolling.
Thank you.
Take a look at the face page of that. Read
Great,
it to
right?
yourself,
That was awesome.
and then I'd ask you to turn to the tab.
Real quick, I just want to recognize these here. Ali Reza, thank you. 14-month membership. Says, go away, YouTube. Stop harassing me to send a milestone chat. Thank you so much, Ali. I appreciate it. He gifted 10 memberships. Thank you so much. Anybody that got a gifted membership, you're right to my homepage. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you can access all the free membership content. Also, it came through with another gifted 10. Thank you. And then Dave, we answered that. Yes, exactly. Don't look at the jury. Probably not going to help. So I'm going to keep going. I want to at least get through Jen McCabe's testimony and through the direct. I don't know. I'll be a little while here. I know there's multiple streams going, but I wanted to review this tonight. All right, let's keep going.
Page, just paragraph 27.
You're back. Feel weird being back in this old position.
Okay.
You have that in mind?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Oh,
Yes.
by the way,
Does that,
like right near my house, they're going to be filming The Walking Dead. Isn't that weird? That's so crazy.
refresh your recollection, Ms. McCabe, that you had a conversation or an
She's
interview,
awesome.
formal interview
Can't wait to have her back.
with Trooper Tully about your relationship with Elizabeth and Michael Proctor.
Yes.
And you told, actually, let me back up for a second. Okay, was that somewhere in the vicinity of September, late September, early October,
Yes.
when you had that conversation?
Is there a date on it?
Always need dates, times, documents. I have AC right
May I
here.
approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So the reason I look a little bit different, I'm actually back in my bedrooms where I started. This is where I started here. And, you all know I did the studio build out, but they're actually installing air conditioning in my building that my studio's in. It's not going to be ready for about another 2.5 weeks. And we hit some really high temperatures today. I literally walked in there. I was like, there's no way I can do a live in here. So came back home, threw the camera up here, and back in the old position. So Ali says, want to have an after show with you on a few topics one day. The case, yeah. We'll see how long I go. I'll message you on Instagram. We'll go from there. All right, let's keep playing through.
There's a date stamp on the bottom. Take a look at that date stamp on the bottom and tell me if that refreshes your recollection of about the time that that conversation would have taken place.
Well, the date stamp on the bottom is when it was, I'm assuming, entered into evidence,
Right.
but that doesn't say when the interview itself was.
Right, so if you'll agree with me, you know that you had the meeting with at Elizabeth and Michael Proctor's home sometime in September 2023, correct?
Correct.
If that's dated October of 2023, that's what I'm trying to get to. I don't know the date because it's not dated.
So I don't either.
So do you think it was between September and October?
It must have been.
Had to have been, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Before I get to that, I've got a couple of other questions.
Super controlling.
You had at some point multiple phone calls with Michael Proctor after January 29th, 2022, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Do you remember all the phone calls that you had with him?
No, I don't.
Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a log of your phone calls?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
May I approach?
Yes. Is this what was marked 00 or
It's
00
not.
this morning?
That will be next.
Okay.
This is just a full. One to the tab.
92. Woo! No way.
Thank you.
Take a look at that and tell me if you specifically, there's a lot of calls there. There are blue tabs. If you could look at those blue tabs and then tell me when you've taken a look at those.
Okay.
It's hot here today. It's hot in my house. All right, let's speed Jen up in her document looking.
Okay.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
WB, I love that. Well, she was the detective, remember? She wanted all the text messages. Keep everything
You're
clear. Control everything.
Having looked at this set of records, does this appear to be an accurate reflection of the phone calls that you shared with Michael Proctor at some point on and after January 29th?
Yes.
Just to summarize those, and I don't want to belabor this, but there was a call on the 29th at 10:55 a.m. with Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
There was a call on the 29th at 12:49 p.m., correct?
I didn't memorize them.
I understand. Would you?
So if you want to give me the paper back, then I could probably answer correctly.
You want to
Okay.
do it that way, we certainly can. May I?
Oh,
Yes.
cool, Chad.
Thank you.
Oh my God, Jen. You can't remember anything, can you?
Okay, first call, January 29th, 10:55 a.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Correct.
Jen's the smartest one in
Next
the room.
tab, January 29th, 12:49 p.m. Trooper Proctor calls you for 1 minute and 8 seconds.
Correct.
January 30th at 9:51 a.m. You called Trooper Proctor, 4-second call, probably a voicemail or something.
Correct.
January 30th, a minute later, 9:52 a.m., you then call Trooper Proctor again, 21 minutes and 31 seconds for that call.
Correct.
January 30th, same day, 4:45 p.m., Trooper Proctor calls you, 9 minutes and 43 seconds.
Correct.
January 31st, the next day, at 11:51 a.m., you call Trooper Proctor for 2 minutes and 53 seconds.
Correct.
That is
Keep in mind, and I talked about this on my show last night. I want everybody to keep in mind. When did they process Karen Reed's SUV in Canton? February 3rd. When did Jennifer McCabe turn over her phone to authorities? February 3rd. And there's something else in here that's coming up, and I have to remember, and I'll remember it when I hear it, because I heard this kind of broken up today because I was trying to listen at work. You're also going to hear something where I was like, wow, that's February 3rd as well, too. So it's all kind of adding around that February 3rd date. And the thing that I find very interesting as well, too, you confiscated the potential murder weapon of a Boston police officer, and you wait almost 3+ days to process that vehicle. Why? If you have the potential murder weapon, why would you not have a crime lab instantly there when that car was back and towed to Canton? Not even to the Mass State Police crime lab. It went back to Canton. I would have someone waiting to process that vehicle immediately. All right, let's keep playing.
The sum of those call logs, correct?
Correct.
Can I approach?
Yes.
Those aren't all the calls that you had with Trooper Proctor. That didn't stop. It's just where these logs stop, correct?
I'd have to see my further call logs.
Oh,
Do
thank
you
you,
believe
Jen.
that you've had additional phone calls with Trooper Proctor after that last call on the 31st?
I know I did in 2023.
Okay. In 2022, did you have additional phone calls with him?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look at phone records.
Why do you gotta look at phone? Should you know?
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Let's speed this up a little bit. All right, they're gonna sidebar here. I'm gonna speed up for the interest of time.
February 28th,
Here we go.
lasting about 2 minutes.
I don't recall. Again, it's
I
hard.
expect that your answer is going to be, I don't recall, but I want to make a record if I could. So this is not a test of your memory at this point. I don't expect you to have it memorized. I just want to ask if maybe one of these stand out in your mind, or all of them. What about a second call on February 28th, lasting about a minute?
Don't recall.
On March 1st, another call with Trooper Proctor lasting about a minute.
I do not recall.
Apparently a second call on March 1st, lasting about 2 minutes and a few seconds.
I don't recall.
On March 11th, another call in the afternoon lasting about 12 minutes.
I don't recall.
And finally,
look at her
a
laughing.
call toward the end of
So
March.
she laughed and looked at Lally. Did you see that? She laughed and then looked at Lally, because this is the practice. This is the rehearsal. She has rehearsed this over and over and over again. And she is smug, and she's a liar, and she knows she's lying.
March 29th, lasting about 4 minutes.
Again, I don't recall.
Okay,
Of course.
understood that this is not a memory test, and I don't have the
Yeah.
records in front of me, so
On
I
a document.
apologize about
Here,
that.
look at her smiling.
Based on the conversation that we've just had, does that jog your memory that you had multiple calls in February and March with Trooper Proctor, as well as the calls we've gone over with the records in January?
To be honest, I had calls with many people. I was in a state of shock for months following this.
Horror.
So if you have the
Shock
record,
and horror.
I can answer off of that. But besides that, just reading them to me does not jog my memory. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You wouldn't quarrel with the idea, I don't want to hold you to a number, you wouldn't quarrel with the idea that you had multiple calls with Trooper Proctor in January, in February, in March, correct?
Well, the ones I've just saw on the record, yes, there were multiple calls there.
And of course, you met him in your home on January 29th.
Yes, I did.
And he came into your living room, you had a conversation with him.
In my dining room, yes.
I'm sorry, your dining room.
Mhm.
And also Kerry Roberts was there
Kerry Roberts was not there.
on the 29th.
Kerry Roberts was not at my house on the 29th. No.
When was she at your house when she was interviewed?
I believe that was the Tuesday, whatever the date was.
Maybe 1st. That sound right? First or second?
Yeah, something. It was the Tuesday following,
Okay. And was that with Trooper Proctor or a different trooper?
a different trooper.
And with Trooper Proctor on the 29th, when he was interviewing you in your dining room, that was the day that Brian Albert was also there.
Correct.
And was Brian Albert also interviewed on that day?
I believe so.
So Trooper Proctor was in your house for, gosh, it had to have been an hour.
I'm not sure. After I interviewed, I went upstairs and then my children
Lovely.
started waking up and I was tied upstairs for a while. I'm not sure when or how long he was there.
But your memory is clear that not only did you meet Trooper Proctor on that day, you had a full conversation with him. It was in your house. That was in your kitchen, in your dining room, and another witness was interviewed by Trooper Proctor in your home as well.
Correct.
And then you had multiple conversations with him in January on that day, the day after, and the day after that. You've already seen those records. Correct?
Yes, correct.
Then in either September or October, you were interviewed by Lieutenant Tully. That's the report that you've already seen.
Correct.
And in that interview, you were asked specifically whether or not you had a relationship with Trooper Proctor and when that relationship started, correct?
Correct.
And you said, quote, you had never met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023, correct?
I did not say that.
So yet again, this is another example of a trooper completely getting it wrong. Is that right?
Right.
Objection.
Sustained, ask it differently.
See, again, and this is what I talked about. Probably the advice from their attorneys was to start backing up, separate yourself from these investigators, and make it seem like they took your statements wrong. That's what they're going to try to play here. Lady Lossander, thank you so much. A member and a moderator and a long time supporter of this channel said, "Oh my God, I'm afraid that the jury might confuse the missing facts in order they presented. Clearly understanding is the key to not guilty." I don't know. This, from what I've understand, this jury's pretty smart. This jury's pretty smart. But again, you know, it's like when Natalie was saying, when she was on the show earlier, you never really know with a jury. They could be laughing and smiling and well, not laughing and smiling, but reacting to you. You know, showing interest, maybe smiling when you're doing cross or when they look at you, and they could come back and vote guilty. Or it could be the reverse of that. She said that there's some juries that go in and they're totally stoic. They don't have any expression on their face and they come back and say not guilty. So I think they're smart enough to kind of see what's going on here and understanding. Jennifer's not a very believable person. You know, all this kind of diatribe that she goes in to explain what happens, all the memory loss when it comes to key, very key important details, and then denying the 2:27 a.m. Google search happened and denying the fact that she deleted it from the Celebrite report. It says she deleted it. And that data is not going to lie. I don't understand. I don't think that Jennifer McCabe can conceptualize that, how accurate that software is. I mean, the FBI uses it to put criminals away. It's a very effective law enforcement tool. So I'm going to tell you right now, if the defense has a Celebrite expert, which I'm sure they probably do, that's going to take the stand and explain how accurate Celebrite extractions are, I think Jennifer McCabe's going to be in a lot of trouble. I think she's going to have some trouble coming her way. All right, let's keep going through.
In your view, did Lieutenant Tully get your statement wrong that you had never met?
And real quick, and I just want to say this, and I've talked about this the last couple of streams. Let's just say this. Aaron Hernandez, what convicted him? Text messages. Alec Murdoff, what convicted him? A Snapchat, essentially a Snapchat video. Data is what I'm getting at. Metadata pretty much convicted both of those individuals. So to say that she doesn't remember and that it's not accurate, she literally says she didn't do it. It's not accurate. I think you're going to have some issues when a Celebrite expert gets up there and testifies.
At Trooper Proctor before September of 2023.
Objection.
Is that true or is that wrong?
Lieutenant Tully knew I met Proctor prior to that because Proctor was the one who did the initial interview on January 29th.
Does it make you wonder why he wrote in his statement, quote, "You've
Objection, Your
never
Honor.
met Elizabeth Proctor or Michael Proctor prior to September 2023.
So the objection sustained.
If you indicated that you had never met Trooper Proctor before September of 2023, that would be a false statement, correct?
Objection.
You can answer that, Ms. McCain.
I met Proctor January 29th. It's
False
everywhere.
statement. If you said it, would it have been false? That's all I'm asking.
Yes.
Yep. Guess what? It's a false statement.
On January 29th, in the early morning hours, I want to take you all the way back to 1:30, 1:45 a.m. when you left 34 Fairview on the 29th. After you dropped off the girls, where did you and Matt McCabe go?
We came home.
After you got home, you indicated that you went upstairs, correct?
Correct.
After you went upstairs, you indicated that you got on the phone.
Correct.
On your cell phone, correct? After you got on your cell phone, you indicated that you started searching for stuff.
Correct.
So if there's GPS, that you've seen the forensic extraction or part of it, correct?
Which one are you referring to?
The forensic extraction of your phone.
I saw what you showed me yesterday from Celebrate.
That's what I mean.
Okay. I'm-
Right, part of it.
I saw, yeah, the phone calls. Yes.
Okay.
I wonder if she's actually convinced by her lies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just it's like a sociopath.
Where that extraction shows that you got home after 2 a.m. or so. So that would be generally correct.
Correct.
The Celebrite extraction shows from your Apple Health data that you actually went up a set of stairs. That would be accurate, correct?
Accurate.
The Celebrite data shows that you actually logged into your phone.
So this is Jackson confirming with her. So this is accurate. You said you went upstairs. This is accurate. And he keeps saying Celebrite. This is going to lead into the 227. And then she's going to go, no, that didn't happen. But everything else happened.
Log in either Face ID or a passcode, opened up the phone. That would be accurate.
Correct.
The Celebrite data shows that you were engaging with an app called Safari to engage some Google searches, correct?
Yes.
That would be generally accurate as well, correct?
Yes.
So after you opened up Safari, you indicated that you Google searched something about Ozone basketball.
Why?
Is that right?
Yes.
That was sometime after 2 a.m., right?
Yes.
Who thinks about basketball at 2 a.m.? I love
What
this.
was so important about Ozone basketball at 2 a.m. that it couldn't wait until the morning? Why did you search it then?
Well, first I was home, I was wide awake, and I had been texting about a basketball chat, and basketball was clearly on my mind. My daughter had been invited to join a team. I didn't know much about the team, so I just was like Googling to see, because the woman who had given my daughter the offer had wanted an answer.
So you say that basketball was on your mind, correct?
Yes.
Was there anything else on your mind in that early morning hour time frame?
Right.
Don't believe so.
Ms. McCabe, if you wanted to know in general how long it takes for a human being to pass away because of exposure to extreme temperatures, right? If you wanted to know the answer to that, what would you Google search? What phrase would you use?
I'm not sure. All I recall is what the defendant asked me to Google in the morning.
If you wanted to know, I'm asking a different question.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm asking you.
If you personally wanted to know, how long does it take for a person to die of exposure due to extreme temperatures? What would you put in? What phrase would you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, we don't have to guess. at the phrase that you would use if you wanted to know something about dying of hypothermia, do we? Did you actually Google searched it?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask that differently, please.
Did you, in fact, use a phrase to Google search how long it takes for someone to die of extreme temperatures?
I did in the morning at the request of your client.
Okay. And what phrase did you use?
I'm not sure.
Really?
Correct. I was.
2.5 years of this, you don't know the phrase that you used?
Objection, Your Honor.
Come on.
There's so many lies and misconceptions on social media.
No question.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
This is not social media, Jen. These are the facts. This is the data that is on your phone. I mean, I don't know why you think you can keep skating around this. It's black and white data. It happened. And you are so convinced of your lies. You're going to continue with this story. I love this. It's the social media has just made us so crazy. The shock and horror.
Are you telling me you don't remember what Google search you put in?
Karen was screaming. My hands were shaking. And she was saying, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold?
And what phrase did you put in your phone?
Yeah.
I'm just asking you to say it.
Why don't you show me it?
You literally don't remember?
Again, she was screaming, Google hypothermia. How long does it take to die in the cold?
How about,
And I picked up my phone and I started Googling.
and you literally to this day, right now, under oath, you're saying you don't remember that phrase that you used.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm saying that at her
Do you remember it or do you not, Ms. McCabe? That's a simple question.
that morning, I don't remember.
I wish we could see Jackson when he's this line of questioning. I wish there was like a split screen with Jennifer McCabe on one side, Alan Jackson on the other, and we literally could see it. I'm sure the tension in the courtroom, just was tight. Because I was like, oh, my neck today when I was hearing it was just tight in my back. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really happening. I mean, I wish we could see a split screen of Jackson. It'd be unbelievable. All right, let's keep playing.
Specifically what I Googled, but I do know what you've put out to the social media.
How about
You
this?
put out.
Hoss long to die in cold. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it's been
Why
everywhere
does that sound so familiar?
because you've put it out in social media.
Well, I haven't put anything out in social media because I don't personally have social media.
I'm sorry, Turtle Boy did.
So if the world happens to know it,
Mhm.
that's not on me, is it?
I guess not.
I guess not. Hoss long to die in cold is what you put in to the Google search, right?
If you say so.
Is there a reason that you don't want to admit to that?
Absolutely not.
It's a simple question, right?
No reason.
So say it. What Google search did you use?
Objection.
Sustained.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Yeah.
You were seeking at some point to Google how long to die in the cold, correct?
Correct.
And you made a mistake and mistakenly typed Hoss long to die in cold, correct?
You could show me it. I'd appreciate it.
Why does she always need to be
You
refreshed?
later Google searched. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
She always needs to be refreshed. Can you show me? That's to keep everything straight, the story straight. Unbelievable. Jackson's masterful, by the way. Just murking it.
Thank you.
Answer's not in that
While
water
she
bottle
looks at
there.
that, Mr. Jackson, can we bring our clerk back upstairs?
Of course, yes. I think we're back to the
Thank you very much. Can you text him and tell him?
Tell me back before, tell me back, refresh my recollection.
Right.
Yes, it does.
Does that appear to be an accurate page from a Celebrite extraction from your phone?
He already has about 1,000 times orders.
It does.
Okay. May I have that back? I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
May I have that back for a second? Yes. Did you see this, the actual search phrase?
Yes.
Does that now refresh your recollection?
Yes.
But I'd like to have this marked as next in order. Exhibit, please.
Is there an objection, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor.
Jim?
Jim.
May I?
Yes. Is that Madam Court Reporter? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move to publish this, Your Honor.
Okay.
Speed up a little bit. All right. Here it is. Black and white. Here it comes.
Does this appear to be the document that was just marked as Exhibit 99?
Yes.
I know it's a little bit small, Mr. Basin. You see this column,
Yes.
third column from the, actually, it's the fourth column from the left. One, some dates.
Aura. Yes, the aura.
Some data, and then a Google search, correct?
Correct.
What does that Google search say?
House long to die in cold.
He made her say it.
Now, you indicate that you did that, you made that search at 6:23 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And then you indicated that you did it again thereafter at
That's to
6:24,
cover up
correct?
227.
Correct.
At 6:24, you misspelled the phrase and you spelled it as follows: how long TI die in CIKD, correct?
Correct.
Now you claim that those two searches were at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m. respectively, correct?
Objection.
Phrase it differently.
Sure. You've indicated,
I mean, you can see right here, like, look at the source file. Look at all that data it pulled from. Here's all the folders it went into. And I mean, it's pulled off mobile Safari, full zip, file, let's see, files, full zip, private. I mean, it's pulling everything from that source core data of that phone. How can you deny this? It friggin' happens. Look at it. It went into the library preferences of the mobile search. It's even saying Apple device. Unbelievable.
under direct examination,
How
that
do you deny
these two
this?
searches were at 6:23 and 6:24 a.m., right?
I don't know if I gave exact times, but I said it was in the morning and Karen had asked me to do it.
And you, exactly, you claimed that you searched it because Karen was screaming at you and yelling at you, Google hypothermia, and you Googled how long does it take for a person to die. I'm
How about this? If Karen was screaming that, we heard the 911 call and we heard the voicemail that essentially was the recorded 911 call that was left on John O'Keefe's voicemail. Why did we never hear Karen in that whole 911? Please Google, how long does it take for someone to die in hypothermia? How long does it take to die in the cold? We never heard that once through that 911 call.
sorry, she said something like, how long does it take for a person to die of hypothermia? And you Google searched it at 6:23 and 6:24. Is that right?
Again, I'm not sure about the exact times. I just did it after Karen asked me to do it.
Would you quarrel with the idea that those were about 30 seconds apart?
Okay.
And you're aware, Ms. McCabe, that both spellings, both misspellings of that phrase result in the exact same search results of them.
I'm not aware of that. No.
Well, you Googled them, ma'am. You're looking on your phone and you Googled how long to die in cold and how long to die in CIKD. Both of those.
Seeing what she did, if you look here at the 624, when she Googled, it's down here. The 227 is here. Long to die in cold. She deleted that, and then at 624 tried to delete it to search again to try to cover it, and she wrote it the same way that she did at 227. That's a cover.
You Googled them, right?
I did, yes.
And they result in the exact same search results, don't they?
I have
I want to see something. 8:03. Okay, that's the source file. I just want to see if I can see chord duet. I'm just trying to see if there's any similarity in the language. I'm not an expert in this, but I don't see. We'll keep playing.
No idea.
So my question to you is, why the two searches?
Yeah.
She was standing next to me screaming, shaking my hand.
A
My hand was
horror.
cold. I was trying to Google it.
I have MS.
Obviously, maybe whatever came up first didn't make sense because I had some misspellings. So I did it again.
So Hoslong to die in cold results in articles concerning dying of exposure, doesn't it?
We never got the chance to read it.
Well, you're the one, when you say we, who's we?
Karen and myself.
Well, you're the one holding the phone, Ms. McCabe.
Correct.
So you're looking down at your phone and you see exactly what comes up, correct?
I don't
Yes,
remember
Jackson.
exactly
Good
what
job.
came up.
Well, what came up was something about dying of hypothermia, didn't it?
That's what she asked.
So why do it again? Why do it again, Ms. McCabe? You had the result. Why the second search?
I cannot answer that beyond telling you that my hands were frozen. She was shaking me and screaming at me.
Look at Nick
When you
Rocco shaking his
see-
head. Nick Rocco right here shook his head no. Oh, it's good to see Nick in the courtroom.
The time, let me scroll up, please.
God, good for Nick. He was
According to
there
that,
on
the
that day.
celebrated
Good for
data.
him. That was great. Nick gets to sit through this. Good for him.
You
What an
see this
experience.
first search that says Hoslong to die in cold?
I'm
I
kind of
did.
jelly a little bit. Good for you, Nick.
What's that time?
2:27.
You've got the, it's right over at 2:27
AM or PM?
a.m.
Ms. McCabe, you made that search at
Look at the
2:27
deleted.
a.m.
It says deleted. Yes. Look at all the other extractions. They're not deleted. Deleted. Yes. Oh my God. It's like raw data, black and white. Boom. You are caught. You are caught.
Because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's
Right.
lawn dying in the cold, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time. No.
Realized the next morning, after John was discovered, after 6 a.m., that you had an incriminating search on your phone, didn't you?
Absolutely not.
To cover your tracks, you searched it again in order to overwrite the original search at 2:27, correct?
Again, absolutely not.
Watch, look at the jury.
But you were nervous and you screwed it up. So the first search you made at 6:23 was Hoslong to die in CIKD, wasn't it?
No.
When you see the search, right there.
I don't know what the
Correct.
time is.
I
That's
see
an
the
interesting
search,
question.
but I disagree with your narrative.
And what's the time frame of that search?
6:23.
And you agree that that time frame is accurate, right?
Again, it's what the report says.
And that comports with your memory of that morning, about 6:23 in the morning and 51 seconds.
Correct.
There's a second search.
She just burned herself. She goes, that's what the report says. So if the report says for those 3 searches at 6:24, 6:23, 6:24, and there's the other one, or there might be just 2. If the report says that, then why are you omitting, did I say that word right? The 2:27. The other ones are accurate, but the 2:27 is not accurate. That makes absolutely sense. You just said the report says that. Yes, the report has all that data. It says that. But at 2:27, apparently that didn't happen. You're delusional. Absolutely delusional fantasist.
Correct?
Correct.
And this one, at 6:24,
Oh, what's up, Uncivil Law?
says Hoslong to die in cold. 6:24:16, correct?
Correct.
Thanks for popping in the chat. I know you do a lot of streams with Natalie. It's good to see you over here. Thank you. Yeah, Uncivil Law says, how are you all enjoying watching this stupid that is this trial? It's a sham. It's an absolute sham. It's an absolute sham.
I'm sorry, 18. I was up that grade. And that comports with your memory as well.
I remember Googling it at the request of the defendant. Yes.
About 27 seconds apart, correct?
So those 3 searches are okay. But the 227, the report is accurate here, but when we get to 227, that's not accurate. She said it's in the report. She said that's the report. Yes, it says it in the report. Yes, it does, Jen. It does. And it says on the 227 it happened as well, too.
Yes.
I can't believe it.
But the reality is your first search didn't comport with the 2:27 a.m. search,
Right.
did it? It was a different spelling, wasn't it?
I never searched a 227. That is not reality.
But the
Oh my-
624 search
Right.
did
Is reality.
exactly mirror the search that, according to this report, took place at 2:27, correct?
I'm sure Celebrate will be able to explain it to you. I can't.
And then of
They
those
will.
3 searches, one of them ended up deleted. Isn't that right?
I never deleted any search.
Yeah, it's sad, and I completely agree. Uncivil Law says, I'm offended by the professional level of this prosecution. It is making my entire profession look like clowns, and I don't like it very much. This is what happens when you don't have a case. And this is what happens, in my opinion, when you conjure a story and you're hiding and you're lying. I'm going to tell you, I mean, the consensus, and I don't know if you know my background on civil law. I've been following this case since September of last year. And I'm sure you've heard of Aiden Turtle Boy Carney. He lives in my local area. He has been following this case since April of last year. It was kind of the one that blew this wide open. And, having the opportunity to go down to the court and be with the Free Karen Read supporters and have them support me and, being a really rally champion here for Karen and helping any way that we can. I've been blessed to be in this area and be part of, this experience. And I'm proud of what we're doing here. And it's pretty disgusting that the prosecution would bring these bogus lies and these witnesses that are lying to drag Karen Read for the last two and a half years of her life. She's had to go through this. And I'm going to tell you, the house of cards is falling quickly. They do not look good. And everybody that I know in and around this area, from, young to old, they grab me all the time when they see me out. I'll be wearing my Free Karen Read shirt or my Karen Read is framed shirt or, my LTL Free Karen Read. And they'll grab me and say, there's no way that lady did that. There's no way that young lady did that. Or there's no way that woman did that. And it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. All right, we'll keep rolling on.
Take a look.
Hey, and if you ever want to come up on the show, let me know. We'll get you up here. I'd love to have you on as a guest. We can come over and do some testimony together. It'd be great. Reach out to me. If you want to come on, I'll drop my email here. It'd be great to have you on. All right, let's keep playing through.
At the Celebrate report, top search, the column marked deleted. What do you see?
I see a yes.
If you're free, jump up. I'll drop the link. I don't know if you're free. Link is for Uncivil
Mr. King,
Law.
the
If you
reason
want
you
to jump up,
deleted that
hang on a little
2:27
bit.
a.m. call is because you realized that if you were caught Googling how long it takes for a person to die in the cold 3.5 hours before John's body was found, that would incriminate you, wouldn't it?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Did you
Yeah,
delete
take your
that
time.
search because you knew that you would be implicated in John O'Keefe's death if that search was found on your phone?
Objection.
Could you answer that, please?
I did not delete that search. I never made that search at 2:23. I never would have left
2:20.
John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved.
But he's not your
So the friend that you loved, your friend that you say that you love, when you place the 911 call, you don't say, "This is Officer John O'Keefe." You don't say, "Officer down." You say the words, "A man is dying in the snow," or "A man down in the snow." You don't say, "My friend, Officer, Boston police officer John O'Keefe is in trouble. Come here quick and come here now." You just say, "A man is down in the snow. He got out of the car." That's what you say. Your friend that you just said that you love. You just say, "A man," on the 911 call, "A man is down in the snow." That's it. Not officer, not officer down, not "We need emergency here quick." That's how you reacted to this, Jen. Your friend.
Family is it?
Family and friends.
Is it
Objection.
not your,
Sustained.
you acknowledge that you made the search at 6:23, don't you?
In the morning, I did, yes.
You acknowledge that you made the search at 6:24.
Multiple times in the morning, yes.
Of the 3 searches that show up, that were all found on your phone, the one that you disavow is the one that took place at 2:27 a.m., which would implicate you and exonerate my client.
Yeah, hang on one second. Uncivil Law in the house. How are you?
Sup?
How you doing?
Yeah, I knew we were in trouble from the prosecution's open, and the last several weeks has not gotten any better in any respect. It's been pretty much an unmitigated disaster.
Mm,
And for me, I try to just keep this simple. It's like within the confines of the state versus Reed, the state has the burden of proof. So sometimes when people ask me, like, "What do you think happened?" I'm like, that is not my problem.
mhm.
That is not my problem. My problem
Yeah.
is, does the state have the burn? Did the state make its burn? If
Yeah.
not, I'm done. What happened? I don't know. Nor within the confines of this case do I, strictly speaking, care, because that is not my problem. All I need to know is whether the state's proved its burden, and then I'm done.
Kurt, and by the way, welcome to LTL Media, and we're on Let's Talk Live here, and I appreciate you doing kind of the spontaneous to jump up. You and I have never met. I've come across your channel quite a few times, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you. It's awesome to have you jump on, but it's
Yeah.
like
Maybe
Natalie said,
it's like maybe Karen Reed did it. I don't know, but if the state can't prove its case, I just don't care. It's not my problem.
yeah, and a lot of people say, that come at me and attack me and say, "Oh, well, the defense has to prove it." That they don't have to prove anything.
No,
It's the
no.
burden of proof is not on the defense. They're there to defend their client and show that their client didn't do it. It's not their burden to prove it.
Yeah. Make the state prove it is always a viable defense theory. It's always what you have left at the end of the day. You prove it.
So you
But
want
the defense can do nothing. They don't have to open their mouth and they can win. That's the virtue of being the defense. They literally can remain mute the entire time and win.
Yeah, they
the state
pretty
has
much
to prove it.
probably could have did it during this.
Yeah. But as it turns out, we've had more exciting things other than that, because things are very sort of suspect. Between, all the dispatch logs are somehow magically wrong. The times are somehow wrong off by a factor of 60. The sworn affidavit that goes along with the search warrant is off by 90 minutes. I seem to remember there's a term for it when you lie under oath in response to a search warrant application. I think it starts with a P. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
We've got like the police officer who, like, initially says in their report, doesn't make these statements about she did it, or other confessing statements. You would think that if the police officer is going to write anything down, it would probably be the confession, but no, somehow that just magically escaped my attention. It magically escaped my attention in the report and during my initial talking with Proctor. But fast forward to the grand jury, and even more so today, and suddenly I'm remembering all sorts of exciting confessional things. Same problem with this witness. When they went over the grand jury, at the grand jury, did she say, I did? No. We said 12 other things, but not that thing. Did it slip your mind? It's amazing. In Massachusetts, apparently your memory gets better over time. It's magical.
How about this? You have witnesses at a murder scene where a Boston police officer has been killed, murdered, or dead or dying, and they allow witnesses to walk away and go inside the house.
Yeah.
Inside the house to wake people up and have them come outside. And magically, when they come downstairs, the police officer is just waiting there right inside the house, just for everybody to come downstairs.
Yeah. It does. And we have 20-year veterans who apparently don't know crime scene procedures and have never experienced snow. I didn't realize that snow was that rare in Massachusetts. I didn't realize it was like a once in a generation event. No concept of snow. So how are we supposed to know any better? So we got out the leaf blower. It has the word leaf in it.
Well, because that's the excellent.
We're not blowing leaves, sir. It's probably the wrong tool.
But that's the that's going to say that's the tools of the trade when you're collecting evidence. Oh, and red Solo cups and
the unlabeled Solo cups, unmarked, uncapped, unsanitized, in the used paper bag. And as I sort of made the joke on my channel, it's like I imagine that in the depths of the Solo company, their marketing team has over time tried to figure out every possible use for the Solo cups in order to sell more Solo cups, but they missed one.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet their marketing team never thought of marketing the Solo cups as a blood collection device for evidence. So there's a whole new marketing campaign out there for you guys. Who knew?
You know, the sad thing about it is this, though, because the evidence was so poorly collected, probably by design. You know, if this ever turns around and perjury comes out and these people get prosecuted, which is probably not going to happen. I don't know.
Perjury is incredibly hard to prove. Just generally speaking, it's incredibly hard to prove.
You want to watch the testimony?
Sure, I can watch the stupid some more.
Oh, and by the way, I made an opinion today. Someone said, "Why didn't they cross Kerry Roberts today?" And I said, my estimate, what I'm probably thinking is, Kerry Roberts kind of is not. She's an outsider. It's kind of what I looked at her as, an outsider. And what Karen's team is trying to do is keep that the McAlberts together, the Albert and McCabe faction together in this. So Kerry Roberts kind of was an outsider. And everybody's like, oh, why didn't they cross her? Because she didn't have that full relationship with Jen, but she had more of a relationship with John, and we heard that today. And it kind of doesn't really implicate her in the circle of trust, is what I kind of call it here on my channel. But that's
they didn't cross-examine other people like earlier on, like a couple weeks ago at the start of the case. There's some people that they didn't cross-examination, but it shows good discipline, and I for the most part think that the defense has shown good discipline throughout, because you don't necessarily need to cross every witness, and you also need to remember why you're crossing them and why not. And not every cross needs to be long. A cross can be a question. If that's all you have, that's all you have. Or if you don't have any questions, that's okay too. But the defense has their theory of the case. They outlined their theory of the case exceptionally well in their opening. I was particularly impressed with that first 5 sentences of their opening, where they went, Karen Reed was framed. And then the next 3 to 4 sentences before they said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm like, that's basically optimal. That's what you want every opening to be. Is that that first paragraph? It was basically perfect. And then they laid out the case in a very coherent, easy to understand way. And they're only asking questions to fill in the space of the framework of their theory, because everything else is noise.
Right. Yeah, I was just wondering, Jennifer D8 with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Do you think the feds are in the courtroom watching? Well, obviously we know there was a parallel investigation. Federal authorities have been investigating this case, and I believe that it is still ongoing. I thought it was the Fed. I thought there was a Fed in the courtroom during opening argument who was taking notes in the background. I thought that was a Fed.
Ooh. During opening arguments, I thought that was a Fed.
Wow. Interesting. I didn't hear that. Could be. Maybe. We don't know. All right, let's watch some more Stupid. We're almost at the end of Stupid.
Correct.
Objection.
Sustained. Can I ask it differently,
Or
Mr.
anytime you want me to pause, just say pause, because I'd love to hear your insight.
Jackson?
Of those 3 searches, there was only one marked deleted. Isn't that right?
Correct.
That was the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I wouldn't even know how to go in and delete a
That's not what I
search.
asked you. The one according to the Celebrite report that was deleted, the one at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Correct.
You'd agree that that's awfully convenient for you, isn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, when they get the Celebrite expert, which I'm sure the defense is probably going to call, they're going to nail this down, right?
I mean, Celebrite is one of the most, if not the most common tool used for exactly this purpose. The government relies on Celebrite all the time. So it's very odd that suddenly the prosecution's offering witnesses like, yeah, that Celebrite data isn't that good.
Yeah, it's just not gonna work.
Okay, you want to offer someone who says DNA isn't that reliable while you're at it? That'd be fun.
Right. Unreal. She's gonna roll with it.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lally?
Thank you.
Now, physical form.
Yes. Thank you.
That guy hates his life every time he goes home.
This woman is a dementor because she sucks all the joy out of my life.
What's that?
I said this woman is a dementor from Harry Potter because the dementors, what they do is they suck all the joy out of you. That's how they're described in the book. What they do is they suck all the joy away. And I look at her and I'm like, yep. Anyone know what Patronus charm is suitable for her? Because damn.
Good morning.
Oh boy.
Going back a little bit, you were asked some questions about Life 360 application that you had on your phone. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're familiar with that app and familiar with sort of using that app to see where your children are at various times. Is that correct?
Yes.
And from your experience using that app, how accurate is it as far as location and time or anything in regard to it?
Pretty accurate, varying some of their locations and sometimes weather.
Have you ever had instances in which you were told someone was somewhere and they were not there?
Yes.
And you were asked some questions about Ryan Nagel's truck, correct?
Yes.
And do you know, or did you on January 29th, 2022, did you know Ryan Nagel?
I did not.
Did you know what kind of vehicle he drove?
I did not.
Keep your voice up, Mr. Lally, please.
Do you know whether or not that was actually somebody else's truck?
I do not know.
Know whether or not on January 29th, 2022, Ryan Nagel had a friend named Ricky?
I do now.
But on the 29th, did you?
No.
On the 29th, did you have any idea what kind of vehicle he drove?
No.
This person you didn't know.
Correct.
Now, when you looked outside as far as the
I agree. Thank you.
truck was concerned, did you even see a truck?
I just saw lights, vehicle. I didn't focus much attention to what was over there.
Yeah.
So fair to say you weren't paying attention.
Another thing that she never pays attention to.
Yeah. I did think that was a bit unfair. I didn't make a video about it because I didn't really know how to do it, but I did think it was a bit unfair when the defense was like crossing. Well, because they were implying because you could see the car, you could see anything else that was in between you and your field of view. And that's just not the way human psychology works. It's like when you're focusing on something, you can very easily miss anything else. And there's like that. There's the famous example of like count the number of times the people pass the basketball, and you ask them about the gorilla, and they're like, "What gorilla?" Because they didn't see it, even though it was walking right in the middle of the frame. So I did think that was an unfair question. It's like because I could see the car, I necessarily could see anything else within my field of view, and I'm like, that's just not the way human perception works.
Interesting take, because I would think that. I don't know. I kind of like this whole like if I had an alligator in front of me, you would have saw an alligator, right?
See, this is my point. I don't know that you would. That's exactly the problem. I'm not,
Yeah.
if you're focused on the right thing, I'm not sure you necessarily would see the alligator.
Okay.
That's the way human perceptions works. It's funny that way.
Oh, Wit 499 says like TV, the lie detector is right till God. All right, let's keep playing. Thank you for the
To a truck you didn't see, a person you didn't know that you had never seen before, correct?
Sustained as to that form.
Now, you were asked some questions about text between Ryan Nagel and Julie Nagel, correct?
Yes.
And as far as when those texts were sent, You don't know, do you?
Can you clarify?
Sure. Do you know whether or not Ryan Nagel texted his sister Julie before he even pulled on to Fairview Road?
They were texting at about his arrival.
Texting about his arrival, but do you know where Ryan Nagel was when he was texting Julie about his arrival?
I believe he was outside.
But you don't know. Is that fair to say?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know whether or not Ryan Nagel was on Cedar Crest or somewhere else when he texted Julie that he was about to arrive or that he was there?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Do you know that?
I don't know that now.
As far as the defendant's motor vehicle and the truck that Mr. Nagel was in, did you see either of those vehicles arrive in front of Fairview?
Yes.
You saw them pull up?
No, actually, are you asking if I saw them pulling up or if I saw when they arrived? I did not see them pulling up.
So at some point after they arrived, your attention was drawn outside.
Yes.
And when we're talking about you going to the door and looking outside, how long a period are you looking at?
Not long.
So would you describe it as either a glance or more of a, were you staring intently at the vehicle out in front of the house?
Objection.
Sustained.
How would you describe the manner in which you were looking out at the SUV in front of the house?
I would go to the front door. I look out. I saw the vehicle. I believe I sent a text and I went and sat back down.
Now, in any of those times that you went to the door, and do you know how many times you went to the door?
I don't know exactly.
At least twice, is that correct?
At least, yes.
Now, in those at least twice that you, well, at least twice that you saw the vehicle and once that you saw that the vehicle was gone, correct?
Yeah, so I guess actually it was more than twice because I saw the vehicle move as well.
And when you say as far as you saw the vehicle move, did you see the vehicle physically move or it was in one place and then you came back later and it was in a different?
It was in one place, and then when I came back, it was further up.
Now, at any of those points in time, as you took a glance out the storm door, did you see anybody outside of the vehicle?
No,
Did you see inside of the vehicle?
no,
Did you see anybody outside other than Julie Nagel on the front lawn, front walkway, or anything else?
no.
At any point in time while you were out,
Question for you, Kurt. Calm down, Tinkerbell. That's a fun name. It says, Kurt, thoughts on Lally's progression in the last weeks, better, worse, or the same?
His direct style has been more or less consistent. I'm not as sharply critical of that aspect of it as, for example, his opening, which was a trash fire disaster area. His direct has been serviceable. The problem is just that he doesn't have the goods to work from. And so it's like, yeah, it's a perfectly serviceable direct technically. I could critique it and have problems with it, but the problem is that his witnesses suck, and so it's like, what can you do?
I mean, it's been a dumpster fire. It just keeps getting, worse and worse and worse for him. This was the worst witness so far.
Of course, the problem for him is like, because he's the government, he doesn't have to bring this case at all. He doesn't have to call any of these people. So it's a error of his own choosing. Sometimes defense lawyers will be put in this uncomfortable position because sometimes, the person you have to call isn't necessarily the most reputable person. You have to deal with what you got. But if you're the government, it's like you can just choose not to bring the case. That is not an option the defense has. So it's like, it's hard to have too much sympathy. This is on you, man.
When you have a witness like this that it's clearly been dragging Lally's case down, like what does he do to go home and adjust for that? Is he just like get in the car and he's like, and then just goes home and tries to re-strategize, or does he just keep going on with what he's got?
Well, I mean, all that should have been thought out in the theory of the case, and I'm not sure that it was very well delineated. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out what he was going to talk about from the opening. It was just a random collection of data with no particular organizational structure that provided me no context to understand why the evidence was important or not. I loved how he yada-yada'd right over the motive, as I had made a note when I was talking about it with Natalie, is like talking about this trip to the overseas where they were having disputes and the idea of the affair, and he just kind of talked about it in the exact same monotone that he talks about everything else. So it's really hard to understand that there's anything significant because he doesn't modulate his voice a lot like I'm doing right now. So everything just becomes a noise and you don't really understand what's being said. See how that's annoying after a while? So yeah, it's like maybe you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, you kind of lull the jury to sleep, I would think.
Yeah, that's not the ideal.
I'm gonna double time him up a little bit here because he is.
Oh, good. Maybe I'll bring some energy to it.
Yeah.
At 34 Fairview that night, did you see John O'Keefe?
No,
At any point in time when you texted John O'Keefe after you arrived at Fairview, did John O'Keefe respond?
no,
At any point in time after you arrived at Fairview, or after you hung up from the 12:18 a.m. call in which you were describing where 34 Fairview was in reference to Bella's house, did you ever hear from John O'Keefe ever again?
no.
And during that about 20-minute or so period of time when Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant's SUV is in front of the house, you never heard anything from John O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And did that strike you as unusual as far as him not responding?
I thought it was strange, but then I thought that they just might have decided to go home or had gotten into a fight or Kaylee wanted him home.
Now, you're looking out through the storm door and you see the Lexus with its lights, right?
Correct.
And from that area, the secondary area up by the flagpole and the fire hydrant, that's the same area where you found John O'Keefe the next morning, correct?
Correct.
And with reference to that area, is there any lights as far as street lights or anything that you're aware of in that area?
No, it's a dark area in the corner of the lot.
Now, at any point in time, were you looking or were you expecting to see?
I'd rather have
John
Lolly
O'Keefe
than
on
this woman. I'll tell
Absolutely
you what.
not.
If my choices are if my choices are a conversation with Lolly or a conversation with this woman, I'll take Lolly every day and twice on Sunday. Damn. This woman's going to eat my soul. I'll take my chances with Lolly.
Well, look at the face.
And fair to say that when you're looking in the dark, in the snow, from the storm door out towards the vehicle, not the same conditions as
Well, Kurt, she was in shock and horror. The shock and horror. All the harassment.
Look at that face says, I am going to eat you.
Well, it's the shock and horror. It was shock and horror.
if you're standing in a courtroom or sitting in a courtroom today about 10 feet away from somebody during the daytime with lights on, correct?
Correct.
Shock for months.
In fact, when you go back to Fairview,
Horror.
You know, being single isn't so bad
who was the
after
person
all.
who requested or directed to go to Fairview?
Karen.
And so when you go to Fairview along with the defendant and Ms. Roberts at the defendant's direction, sometime around 6 a.m., when was it that you first saw Mr. O'Keefe?
I wasn't the one to first see him. Karen was.
So she's banging on the door, asking it to be let out. She goes directly over to the block, correct?
Correct.
And neither you nor Ms. Roberts, well, you didn't see Mr. O'Keefe on the lawn until after she did that, correct?
Correct.
And that was after you had already sort of driven a little bit past where he was, correct?
Correct.
Now, with reference to you get home from Fairview around 2 a.m. or somewhere in that time frame, you go up to bed and you do some searches on your phone, correct?
Correct.
And so there's a Safari tab or application on your phone. That's where you access Google.
Yes.
Is that typically where you would access Google?
Yes.
And you were looking at Ozone basketball. You're also looking at hockey. Is that right? Yes.
Sustained.
What, if anything else, were you looking at beyond the Ozone basketball you talked about?
We had an exciting game earlier in the night against a local town that has a very good basketball program. So I went on Hockomock Sports to look at the recap, and typically I'll do that to see how other teams did, etc.
And around that same time, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, within when you did that, as far as looking things up on Google, were you opening up new tabs within Safari as you were looking at different websites or different topics?
No.
And when you went to bed or you went to sleep that evening, at some point you turned off your phone, right?
Correct.
And did you X out that box, that Safari tab that you were doing those searches with regard to Ozone and Hockomock?
No, I used to always leave my tabs open and my kids would yell at me.
As far as having multiple tabs open, is that correct?
Drains my battery, etc. Yes.
So then flash forward to sometime after 6 a.m., you're on the side of the road and the defendant asks you to conduct or look up something with regard to hypothermia or how long to die in the cold, correct?
Correct.
So when you open that up and you go into Google, did you open up a new tab or did you just sort of go into what you had already open in the Safari tab?
I went to what I already had opened.
And that's where you perform the search, is that right?
Excuse me?
That's where you perform the search that you were just being asked about?
Yes.
And you never made any search like that at 3:27 in the morning, correct?
I did not know.
Now, again, you've been shown what's been called a Cellbrite extraction report, correct?
Yes,
Are you familiar with how many Cellbrite extraction reports were conducted in reference to your phone?
I think a couple. I'm actually not sure.
And prior to January 29, 2022, had you ever seen a Cellbrite extraction report?
No,
As you sit here today, do you even really know what that is?
not really. No,
You know what a wall file is?
no,
You know what an SQLite database is?
no,
You know what a knowledge profile C database is?
no.
You know how information.
But I'm sure your husband does. Right, Kurt? He's an IT guy. I'm sure he knows.
Is stored and kept within your cell phone.
No,
Now, as far as, let me ask you this, is, you had 4 children and you were a mom, a homemaker, correct?
correct.
At some point you did work though, right?
Yes,
What did you do for work?
I was an elementary school teacher.
What grade did you teach?
5th.
Really? Holy shit.
One question and we'll see where this goes.
Surprised he didn't ask her about the weather
Uh,
again.
Well, someone gave her kid. Someone gave her kids to teach. That's not right, man.
All right.
What grade did you teach?
5th.
And how long did you teach 5th grade?
Yeah, I'm going to see counsel at sidebar. Oh, feel free to stand up.
That you saw the vehicle out front of the house, correct?
Correct.
And so then what is the defendant's story changed at that point?
That they went there, and it changed multiple times. I'm not sure exactly. She said, at one point, "Oh my God, I don't even remember going there." She was telling other people that he was dead, that a plow hit him. The story changed multiple times that morning.
Now, on cross-examination, you were played a voicemail. Do you know whose phone that voicemail was from?
They never said no.
Fair to say that you're on 911 in the background of that phone call, correct?
Correct.
So it wasn't your phone.
Correct.
And there's 2 other people beyond that, as far as Ms. Roberts and the defendant there, correct?
Correct.
Was Terry on the phone at all that you saw?
No.
And so with reference to the timing of that phone, you had called 911 and you were on the phone with 911 at the time that recording starts, right?
Correct.
So you had gotten out of the car. You had gone around and then seen where the defendant had run over to Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
As to the form, it's sustained.
What had you done before you placed that 911 call?
I got out of the car. I ran behind the car over to the body. I was in a state of shock for a couple of seconds. Carrie and I looked at each other and I said, "I'm going to call 911.
And there was a period of time when you made the call before it connected and you said you bounced around to different agencies, correct?
Yes.
And this is after the defendant has hit the door and run from the vehicle over to Mr. O'Keefe's phone, right?
Yes.
So it's not your phone, and it's not Ms. Roberts' phone. Fair inference is the defendant's phone, correct?
Correct.
And so this phone call had been made or started recording at some point before you had even gotten out of the car, made your way over to Mr. O'Keefe, been in the state of shock for a few seconds, called 911, connected to 911. So at some point, it had to have been made in the car, correct?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
Do you know when that voicemail or that recording that you heard, do you know when that call was placed?
I don't.
Good point, Queen. And I said this too. You make a 911 call. This is your friend. I just said this before Kirk got on. This is your friend that you love. You care. You love John. Why would you not say on the phone, "My friend is down. He's hurt. He needs 911. A Boston police officer, John O'Keefe, is down. Officer down." Why would you not say that? She didn't say it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good question.
If
It
you
sounds
wanted
like you're
emergency-
trying to literally dehumanize him, and maybe that's because of a guilty mind.
Yeah. I mean, why would you not say that? This is a friend that you loved and you want emergency there as quick as possible. Why would you not say officer down? They would have been there like that.
Now, at the time that you are making the 911 call, where is the defendant in relation to the vehicle?
She is over with Mr. O'Keefe.
You mentioned that the part beyond the 911 call where you heard yourself talking, you're at the rear of Ms. Roberts' vehicle.
Yes.
And why are you at the rear of Ms. Roberts' vehicle?
In the beginning, I'm at the rear gathering towels or blankets. And then a few times I go to the rear because I'm trying to speak with the 911, and Karen is screaming hysterically. And then Kerry starts screaming at her to calm down. It was quite chaotic. So I was moving away so that I could be clear with the operators.
Now, at some point you went into your sister's house at 3450, right?
Yes.
And why did you go?
Officer Lank asked me to go in and wake them up.
So you were asked to go in there by the police.
So officers let people go into houses and not say, hey, can you kind of stay here? We're going to get some statements and ask you some questions. You go right up in their house. Okay, that makes
Wake them
sense.
up, right?
Sustained.
And at some point you indicated that you had called Officer Lang to come back to the house, right?
Yes.
And how did you get his number again?
Julie Albert.
And as far as, were you aware whether or not Brian Albert, Cole Albert, or any of the other people that were present had Officer Lang's number?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why did you ask Julie Albert and not Brian Albert and Cole Albert?
Because I knew she was the only one that had his number.
You were asked some questions about when you're on scene, and you indicated in your testimony on direct that you heard the defendant say, I hit him, correct?
Yes.
You also, early in your testimony, had indicated that earlier in the morning, the defendant had phrased that differently as far as could I have hit him or did I, correct?
Objection.
Sustained as to the form.
You heard the defendant make a variety of statements over the course of the night, correct?
Yes.
And more to my point, as far as you recall testifying at another hearing under oath in June of 2020, correct?
Yes.
And were you recall being asked some questions specifically about this topic?
Objection.
Allowed. Okay.
Sidebar.
Being asked any questions sort of at different times, the defendant saying different iterations of that same statement.
Objection.
Sustained as to form. No leading, Mr. Lally.
With respect to that that's testimony of that same prior proceeding. What, if anything else, were you asked about statements the defendant made to you that morning?
I was asked what were some of the statements that Miss Reed had made. And it was like, repeat, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? Could I have hit him? Did I hit him? I have a cracked taillight. And then
But never,
I hit him. I hit him.
But you didn't say that part.
Yeah. You know
That's
what's
the
another
problem.
good one too? Is that how she said, oh, when we got to John's house, Karen got out of the car and that's when she pointed her taillight and we had a conversation about it. And then we went into the house. Lally plays the video and that literally never happened. And the funny thing is he let it run for it felt like forever. It felt like it was like 5 minutes. It probably was an extra 30 seconds. And I'm kind of sitting there going, when are they going to come back outside this house and point this taillight and have the conversation? It never happened.
It also just strikes me as slightly odd, maybe, because the way that she's sort of describing it on the stand, like right now, the I hit him, she describes that as she portrays it as a confession at face value. But
Right.
when you listen to everything else she said about the other statements, she and other witnesses described Karen Reed as hysterical, as completely emotional, as basically apoplectic, irrational. And so it's like, I just don't quite understand, even within the context of the narratives that she's trying to spin, why she would find those particular statements in the way they were said to be shocking or to be particularly notable. Because she said that earlier. I found the statement shocking. I'm like, but
Shocking,
why would
right.
you find them shocking? When this woman is saying basically everything else and going a mile a minute, why would you assume that she's even aware or conscious of what she's saying in such a way that you viewed it as a confession and are so angry about it? It seems like a slightly odd portrayal given everything else that's going on. So I don't quite get it.
Well, she's an odd duck. She's believing her own lies. I mean,
Everything
Anyways.
else she said was hysterical and ranting and emotional and unhinged. But when she said, I hit him, it was the confession of a stone cold killer. What the hell is this? Doesn't
Yeah.
quite flow, man.
It's so shocking.
And so with respect to questions and as far as did I hit him or could I hit him, and the statement I hit him, those were at different times, correct?
Correct.
Now, you met with Triple Proctor on January 29th, is that correct?
Correct.
Was that the first time that you had met him?
Correct.
If anyone was with him when you met?
I believe it was
Just
Trooper
who was
Yuri.
with him will be fine.
And
So what if
subsequent to that,
anything has to
you meet
go?
with other troopers.
Yes.
And by other troopers, I mean not Triple Proctor and not Trooper Yuri.
Yes.
And with respect to meeting with other troopers, was it at that point that they talked to you about taking your phone?
Correct.
And
I got a question for you, Kurt. And I've never
Mhm.
really heard this out of a lot of the trials that I've ever watched. Judge Bev actually corrects Lally today. It says you're leading. I've never really heard, like, that's like a real big no-no, right?
Yeah, well, on redirect, which is what he's doing, a lot of judges will let you get away with leading. And she's absolutely correct. You're not allowed to lead on redirect any more than you're allowed to be on direct. So she's being strict, and I'm here for it.
Well, it's nice that she's actually, started to kind of.
It is the rule. I mean, it is the rule. You're not allowed to lead on redirect either. Attorneys
I've
do it
never
all the
really
time, and
heard-
she's yeah. You're not wrong.
Yeah,
Most
I've never
judges
heard
won't.
that.
Most judges won't correct you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I never heard that before.
they asked you for your phone, is that correct?
I had shared my Life 360 and my Life 360 and my texts, and they asked if they could take a copy of my phone.
And did you agree?
Pro tip: say
I agreed
no.
to it, yes.
And were you presented
tip,
a
say
phone
no.
call in regard to your agreeing to?
What's that?
I say pro tip: say no. If the police ever say, "Do you mind if we search your car? Do you mind if we look
No.
around? Can we get your cell phone?
Right.
Can we take a
No.
copy?" Just say no.
Right.
Just say no.
Need
No
a
is
lawyer.
always the right answer to every question. Just say no.
I need a lawyer.
To hand over your phone.
Yes.
And beyond what you had testified to earlier, as far as things, were there any limitations that you put on what they could look at or take from your phone?
No limitations.
And Pro Tron?
Yes.
I would say no. I'm just telling you.
Let's speed up.
I'm showing you a document and just ask you to look at it.
She needs those documents to refresh all the time. Can you show it to me?
Just in general, ma'am, do you recognize that?
Yes.
What do you recognize that?
This was the consent form for my phone.
So that's the form you filled out with the troopers in regards to giving over your phone.
Correct.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm on the seat.
Is there an objection, Mr. Jackson?
No objection.
Okay, thank you.
We already got the information.
100.
Thank you.
Again, Ms. McCabe, initially following that the events of initially that morning around 6 a.m. or so, at some points you were seeking or you had actually asked the defendant for Kerry Roberts' phone number, correct?
Yes.
And why is it that you were looking for Kerry's number specifically?
Well, the driving conditions were terrible. She was driving to Braintree to pick up Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe. And then they were heading to the hospital. And I was just looking to see how John was doing.
You had mentioned at some point, did you speak to Ms. Roberts that morning in regard to updates as far as how John was doing?
Yes.
And you mentioned that later on, that day or the next day, that you had gone over to Mr. O'Keefe's house with Ms. Roberts, correct?
Yes.
And who was driving at the time that you went over to the O'Keefe's house with Ms. Roberts?
Carrie was driving.
And so when you left the O'Keefe's house, where was it that you went?
Carrie went to drop her daughter off at her friend's house, the daughter of Mike Lank.
And you were just in the front passenger seat of that vehicle, right?
Yes.
You had mentioned as far as getting together with Ms. Roberts at the request of someone to talk about a timeline, right?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury sort of how that came about or who was making that request?
Carrie called me and she told me that she had talked to Peggy, and Peggy had
I'm going to allow it.
And Peggy had suggested to Kerry, you guys should write a timeline. You don't want to forget anything, when the time
It's
comes.
got to be like
meaning
3
if-
levels of
when the
hearsay right there. I'm just trying to count them in my head. It's like she
Timeline,
said to
writing
me
that
that
whole
said
down
to,
is-
that's got to be like 3 levels of
Yeah.
hearsay.
And I'm sorry, writing the whole timeline down. Why are you writing a timeline down? Oh, to keep our story straight. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Trial comes, you don't want to forget anything that happened.
Right. When
And
trial
just to be clear, when you say Peggy, who are you referring to?
Mrs. O'Keefe,
John's mother?
John's mother, correct?
Now, you were asked some questions about subsequent date as far as hearing bits and pieces or portions of Ms. Roberts' statement to troopers at your home, correct?
Correct.
You know whether or not that was the first time that Ms. Roberts had talked to troopers or officers or anyone from either Canton Police or State Police?
I believe on the 29th in the afternoon, troopers went to her house. I said that would have been the first time.
So the time that she was at your home and speaking to troopers, that would have been at least the second time that she's spoken to troopers, correct? Yes.
Sustained.
Now, with reference to Ms. Roberts and her phone, was Ms. Roberts, the time that you handed your phone over to the troopers, was Ms. Roberts present there as well?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you see Ms. Roberts do with respect to her phone and the troopers?
She turned her phone over as well and signed the consent.
Now, during that time, you had indicated that you had heard a statement that you said was horrified you in some way. Is that correct?
From Miss Roberts?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. What was that? What was she talking about?
Objection. The door has been opened, Mr. Jackson. That means you can answer.
Okay. So basically, Carrie is a talker, and once she started,
I think just focus on
Okay.
what she said.
okay, she said something like, John really loved Amy, and in my eyes, Karen was just a babysitter with benefits.
And is that what made it memorable to you as far as what had transpired at that time?
Yes.
At any point in time, did you ever coordinate your statement and Ms. Roberts' statements with her prior to testifying at any hearing or any proceeding at any point in time?
No.
Let me ask you, when you came to the area of 34 Fairview Road around 6 a.m. And you saw Mr. O'Keefe, was he in the same clothes that you had seen him in earlier?
He had jeans and I believe the same shirt on, yes.
And nothing additional as far as a jacket or anything like that you saw?
Not that I recall.
Now, again, as you were driving down Fairview Road, if the defendant did not bang on the door and essentially jump out of the car and make a beeline over to Mr. O'Keefe, would you have stopped the car?
No.
Recall when you were leaving 34 Fairview Road earlier, as far as sometime between 1:30 and 1:45 when Mr. McCabe is driving. Do you recall whether or not the roads were plowed or treated or anything that you saw at that time?
I know there was snow on them, but I can't recall specifics.
Now, as far as the defendant coming over your house shortly after 5 a.m., was that something that you were expecting at the time?
No.
And what was it prior to the defendant showing up and sort of screaming in front of your house? What was your sort of plan as far as based on the information that Ms. Reed had home?
My husband and I were going to go out and we were going to drive over to Tom Beatty's house to see if John was there.
Now, as far as the 911 call that you were making, that information that you were providing, what was that based on?
What I was seeing.
But as far as how Mr. O'Keefe had come to be there at 34 Fairview Road, when you're communicating any of that to the 911 operator or to officers on scene, was that from your observations when you were inside 34 Fairview after the waterfall or from some other source?
Well, it was from what Karen was saying as we were driving there.
So as far as him being dropped off or anything like that, that came from the defendant, correct?
Correct.
Get back to
Now, as
Jackson.
far as you had been asked and you had testified about going over to Trooper Proctor's house to meet with his wife, correct?
Correct.
And you were testified about certain incidents of harassment that you had undergone, as well as Mrs. Proctor, is that correct?
Correct.
How long had that been going on for at that point?
At that point, it started in April, and now I believe I went over there in September.
And what, if anything, was the frequency of the harassment? Was it sporadic, or how often were you experiencing that?
Daily, sometimes hourly.
Mhm.
And In addition to what you've already testified, what, if any, other incidents do you recall specifically involving either you or your children or your home?
People come by my house, they take video, they scream. They've gone to my child's sporting events and called me names. They've written letters to my daughter's colleges and said that they shouldn't allow them to play. And then they've attached these horrific articles that have been complete lies about all of us. They send me Facebook messages. They call my phone, home phone and cell phone, all hours of the night. They tell me to kill myself. They tell me I'm a terrible mother. They harass my children. My daughter testified here the other day. We didn't even get out of the building, and people were, saying horrendous things, that she's a liar. Your mother should die. It's just, it's unimaginable what my entire family is going through. I go to the beach, they take pictures, they post it, they threaten that there are eyes everywhere. I'll never be able to live a normal life again. I am a witness. That's all I am. I am not on trial. I am a witness. And these
You should be
people
on
are
trial.
terrorizing me.
You should be on trial.
that part.
Destruction
I'll
of
strike
evidence.
that part.
How about for
Everything
that,
else
for
is fine.
starters?
Okay.
Destruction of evidence, perjury,
So,
and some other
Go
things I
on.
could dream up. Possibly accessory, depending on my mood that day.
Mm-hmm. It's just the shock and horror. The horror.
your understanding that Mrs. Proctor had sustained.
That's okay.
similar
Just keep looking
issues
with
as you
those
had.
cold, dead eyes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, again, Trooper Michael Proctor never met him prior to January 29, 2022, correct?
I have never met him prior. No.
And the time that you went over to meet with Elizabeth Proctor, was Trooper Michael Proctor home at that time?
No, he was not home.
And had you ever been over to his house prior to that or any time subsequent?
No, never.
Now, you did have some conversations with Trooper Proctor following this day and around let me ask you this. You testified a bit about a rolling route. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you describe to the jury sort of what that was or what occurred on that?
So that day in July, a group got together under one blogger, and they all met and they
can't do a
decided
good
to go
Boston.
to different houses. So Michael Proctor had been made aware of what was happening. So he had reached out to tell me, what was going to be happening and how they had set up some cameras. It was a Saturday. I had just come home from vacation with my children and my husband. Mrs. O'Keefe picked up my two younger children and brought them out with her so they wouldn't be home for this. And my two older children and my husband were in the house while about, 50 to 75 people came to my house. They screamed, they yelled, "There's a murderer." They just caused an absolute ruckus outside.
A ruckus.
Prior to
Ruckus.
that, did you have any conversations with Proctor and other troopers from the state police about?
No, I really feel bad. I mean, my heart really hurts in the fact of, the O'Keefes are rolling with these people. Like, these are their people. They're rolling with them. And I just,
John got off lucky.
I hope that they kind of come around and see the lies and the bullshit and the cover up here. I just
Was
find
my
it
joke-
interesting though.
Was my joke too
Paul-
subversive?
I just find it interesting though.
Okay.
It's trial. Paul, the brother of John's, been sitting on one side of the courtroom and his mom's sitting on the other. And I wonder if Paul has kind of come around a little bit, but I hope they see through this stuff, but I don't know.
Knowledge of that incident
The
occurring
jury
prior
sees
to
through
this,
all this crap.
Yes.
and as far as setting up sort of whole cameras around your house to memorialize whatever. is
She's
going
always
down.
looking at the
Yes.
jury.
Now, you were asked some questions with regard to the Google search. Again, that was initiated after 6 a.m. Why?
Because Miss Reed asked me to Google how long to die from hypothermia. She said, Google hypothermia, Google how long it takes to die in the cold. She was shaking me, screaming at me to do it.
And she's shaking you as you're typing, is that correct?
Correct.
And there are some misspellings, correct?
Correct. I also have MS and I have
Well, I'll allow that.
I have MS and I have, issues with my hand. So I a lot of times Google and make errors, but the cold also makes my hand go completely numb. So I'm not surprised that that's how it would come out.
When you were in your bedroom sometime after 2 a.m. Thursday, the defendant wasn't there shaking you when you were Google searching for ozone basketball or hockey. Yes.
Sustained.
One moment, John.
Yes.
We're going to end here.
Nothing further, John.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
All right. Warren Jackson.
Concerning statement, I hit him. You gave a
Is this
statement
recross?
on January 29th to Sergeant Lang. Called him over to specifically give him a statement, correct?
Correct.
Gave a statement the next day, later that day, Trooper Proctor, correct?
Correct.
You were also met with, on that following Tuesday, with a trooper named Prince, correct?
Correct.
And then you testified in April of 2022, no fewer than 12 times about statements that you attributed to Ms. Reed, correct?
Correct.
And in not one of those instances, not one,
Oh, Kurt, you might not know this because you're not local. I'm around this. I go to the courthouse and stuff all the time, but you might
Cool.
not know this. After the first day that Jennifer McCabe testified, they were all over hanging out at her house. It was like 14 of them all over there. There was cars everywhere, up and down. But wait, they don't discuss the details of the case or their testimony.
The witnesses
had
in the
Albert
case were
and-
having a little party together
Yeah,
after the first day of the trial.
unbelievable.
How,
After the
how's
first day
legal?
that Jennifer McCabe had testimony, only consider the state of mind, comma, common.
Wait,
I
after
mean,
the first day, she had testimony. She was still on the stand, right? Because
Yes,
they
and they
came
were
back the
all
next
there.
day.
They were all there over in her
Oh.
house that night. There's photos of it everywhere.
Dude, that is so dirty. Oh,
And they
that's
were
so
talking
dirty.
about, they were just all caught out at an engagement party all together. And Colin Albert testified that he doesn't have social media. Guess where he posted photos of that engagement party? On his social media. And then when it was caught, his
Yeah.
account gets deleted. How about this? A video today, Turtle Boy, Aiden Carney, gets a video of Colin Albert fighting. He said he had never been in a fight before.
Dude, if that's so wrong because she's on the stand, that's witness tampering, that's obstruction. Like
Yeah, I'd say.
I as an attorney, like if she were my client and she's in the middle of testifying, like I can't have a conversation with her because she's on the stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't even have a conversation with her. And I'm like her an attorney in this hypothetical, but she's at a party, like a whole bunch of you talking to her, like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah. Unreal.
That's messed up, dude. That's wrong.
All right, we'll finish with Alan Jackson, and I do have to wrap up the stream. Kurt, again, I want to just thank you for jumping on and hanging out here. Again, this is the first time that we've ever met. I've checked out your channel; it's fabulous, and I love your.
I've been enjoying
your
making clips of the stupid. That's been interesting.
But we'll get through this, and then we're gonna wrap this one up. I appreciate you hanging out, though. Thank you.
No worries.
is there a report that says you said, she said, I hit it, correct?
Correct. Although I told Mike Lank.
Oh, we already know that the officers all got it wrong.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to that. Next question, please, Mr. Jackson.
I mean,
So you
fair
indicate
point.
that you were, the harassment that you just described, this terrible harassment that you just described, started in about April 2023, correct?
Correct.
It was around the time there were public hearings concerning this Google search. Is that right?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Is that
We
right?
love your
I'm
clips.
not sure exactly when the Google search came out.
But you do know that you started suffering this harassment that you claimed is awful and terrible, et cetera, around April of 2023. Is that right?
I didn't claim it's awful. It is awful.
Okay, I'm sure it is awful, Ms. McCabe. I'm sure it's terrible.
It is.
It sucks to be harassed.
It really does.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, so
That
that's
was
sustained, and I'll strike it. Go ahead and ask a question, Mr. Jackson.
That's fair. That's a fair.
You were upset by April of 2023 that there was public outrage about your family being involved in the death of John O'Keefe. That's what you were upset about, correct?
I was upset that we as witnesses were being harassed.
You were upset about public outrage concerning this case, correct?
Objection.
Sustained, that was answered.
Next
Sure
question.
enough.
And 2 months
No.
later, in June of 2023, for the first time, you testified at another proceeding, and lo and behold, you attributed the words, "I hit him," to my client, right?
Objection.
So ask that without the objectionable phrase.
2 months later, at another proceeding, in June of 2023, you attributed the statement, "I hit him," to my client for the first time under oath, correct?
Under oath, correct.
You indicated when you turned your phone in, the police were perfectly okay with you deleting communications with your children, correct?
Correct.
Including Atty, who's a material witness in this trial.
Objection.
So part of that is objectionable, and I'll sustain that. So
You're aware that your daughter, Atty, was a witness in this case.
At the time, I was not aware of that, no.
No, but you did know that ultimately she was going to indicate that she drove Colin home, correct? You knew that at the time.
Objection.
that's sustained.
Did you know at the time that Atty had driven Colin home, or she said she drove him home?
I had no idea she drove him home.
But you deleted all those communications with Atty, didn't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you delete all the communications that you had off your phone with Atty, your daughter?
Objection.
So this has already been answered, but go ahead, finish. Let's finish this loop. Did you delete them?
I deleted the conversations with my 4 daughters. At that time, Allie was not a witness.
All I asked you, you heard my question. Did you or did you not delete the communications with Atty?
Objection.
That's been answered.
Judges are going to close off this questioning any time
You
now,
said
I
that
think.
there was this statement that horrified you, your words, horrified you, that Carrie Roberts made during her interview that you were eavesdropping on, right?
I'm not sure if she made it during that interview. I'd have to look back to see when I said she told them everything in bold, because I know she had said it to me multiple times. So I'm not sure if it's when she said it in the interview or just in general. When she said, I told them everything, I told them, etc.
So when you said in that group chat, she's telling them everything, that might not even be what you're talking about.
No, it was.
And you said that horrified you, correct?
I didn't know Carrie Roberts. So yes, her statement horrified me.
Horrified you.
Yes, that was horrifying.
And in that group chat, your response to that horrifying statement was 3 words. I love it.
Was there a response prior to that?
You tell me, ma'am. I'm not the one under oath. You are.
Well, if you want to show me it again, I'd love to get.
Yesterday.
So do you have it handy, Mr. Jackson?
I don't know.
She's crazy. I mean,
She's-
this is
she's-
a whole bag of crazy here.
Stay away, man. Stay away.
She's a whole bag of crazy. See the eyes?
Okay. Your Honor, it's been marked and entered. It was
They say the eyes are the windows to the soul, and
Yeah, right.
Sure.
yeah, I'm having problems here, man. Her eyes make me feel dark inside.
Oh, geez.
Speed up the time.
Yes.
Flip those 2 pages. If you would.
Could you tell me what pages, please?
69 and the second page, Ms. McCabe, if you wouldn't mind.
What's the second number, Ms. McKay?
Number, the bottom right.
2170.
Thank you.
You have that, Emily?
Yes, I do.
May I? Your Honor? Yes. Thank you. During that conversation, when you said she's telling them everything, that came right on the heels of your husband saying this girl could write a book, this woman could write a book or something like that, correct?
Correct. She talks nonstop.
Right. And then you said 2 texts down.
This
she's
is like a
telling
bad
them
episode of
everything.
Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Correct.
The text just before that was, I love it.
That was in response to my husband saying this girl could write a book.
What's the next thing that you wrote to that group within a second of that?
She is telling them everything.
Right. May I approach the court?
Sure.
Nowhere in that text chain did you say something along the lines of, oh my goodness, I'm so horrified. Did you?
Those were on phone conversations.
Nowhere in those
Convenient.
texts that you just saw did you say the words or write the words, I'm so horrified. Did you?
No, because it was already spoken about.
You were asked
Let it go.
on that morning, January 29th, 2022, as you drove to the location and ultimately to 34 Fairview. What ultimately happened? And your testimony was, as you approached, my client was searching frantically for John O'Keefe, correct?
I don't believe I said she was searching frantically for John O'Keefe.
Searching frantically.
She was screaming frantically in the back seat and texting in the back seat.
Was she just sitting there, curled up in the back seat, sucking her thumb, or was she searching out the window?
She was screaming
Right.
between Kerry and I. So I'm not really sure how she saw John over here when her head is up here screaming and then looking down and texting.
Was the whole point of that trip, Ms. McCabe, to search for John?
It was because she knew where he was.
The whole point of that trip was to look for him, correct?
She directed us to go to 34
No.
Fairview.
The whole point of the trip was to look for John,
At
correct?
34 Fairview, where Karen said to go.
And your testimony is that if it hadn't been for Karen jumping out of that truck, you wouldn't have stopped, correct?
Because I wouldn't have seen him. I didn't know he was there. She did.
Yes or no? Was that your statement? If she hadn't gotten out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped.
I don't believe it was stated like that. I believe there was a question and I answered.
And the question was, would you have stopped? And your answer was what?
What was the direct question?
Oh my goodness, Ms. McCabe, it was 5 minutes ago.
Right. Did he ask, did you see something? You like to change words. I just want to be certain.
So, Mr. Jackson, just keep it to questions, not comments.
You were asked just a second ago by Mr. Lally, if Karen Reed hadn't jumped out of the car, you wouldn't have stopped, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Ms. McCabe, we are finished.
Every direct was kind of a
Jurors,
loss.
you're-
That was just kind of a loss. It wasn't worth it.
No.
Nah, it wasn't worth it. kind of weak in my view.
Yeah, right. Come
They can't all
on.
be great.
I'm sensing your sarcasm. She's a whole bag of crazy, though. She is a whole bag of crazy.
That she is. That much cannot be denied.
Unreal. Unreal. I can't wait till Proctor. That's going to be interesting, too. It's going to be really, or Brian Higgins.
You think Proctor will take the stand?
I don't know. Does the Commonwealth bring him out? I mean, knowing?
With the Fed investigation in place, I'd be surprised if he doesn't plead the fifth. I would.
Jeez, man.
You kidding me? If I knew the feds
seems
were
crazy.
investigating me relating to this, I'd plead the fifth. That is not my problem, man. Protect your rights every time.
Wow. That's what Didn't Furman do that in O.J. Simpson trial at one point? Started pleading the fifth? I think he did on some certain questions.
I don't remember. That was a long time ago. You might have me on that one.
I think he did. I think when they started questioning him about the racist implications, that's where he started pleading the fifth, and they had him on that. Even though I know 100% O.J. Simpson did it, in my opinion. I don't think there's no doubt about that, but they got him good on that. I think it was. But interesting. This is going to be a very, very interesting case.
Don't we have like
and
4
it
more
has
weeks
been.
of this?
It's more. There's no court
Lord.
tomorrow. There's no court tomorrow because Aiden Turtleboy Carney has court tomorrow in his witness
Yeah.
intimidation. So
Yeah.
they're
I haven't
they're not
been following Turtle Boy super closely. I followed a little bit when he was indicted initially, and it seemed a little suspect on some of the charges. I've been following it super closely. When he was kicked out of the courtroom, I didn't have a major problem with it. I don't really think that he has any valid arguments there. I don't think a First Amendment argument works for him being kicked out of the courtroom. But yeah, I don't really know a whole ton about it, but it seemed like he was getting done dirty because
Big
it seemed
time.
like he was just doing what investigators would do.
big time. 100%. 100%. They've been doing him
Yeah.
dirty. But anyway, he's got court tomorrow, so they can't have Karen in the same courtroom. And then there's supposed to be a full day of court on Friday, I believe, and then you break for Memorial Day. Yada 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 yada.
What's the court for tomorrow? Is it a hearing for the access?
It's a
or
hearing in
something?
the witness intimidation for Turtle Boy.
Okay.
So all these people, it's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna probably be out there at the courthouse streaming outside tomorrow. So
That'd be fun.
yeah, I try to get down there as much as I can, or I'll do like a mix where I'll go down, watch Karen come in, walk into court, and I'll kind of run out, get to my studio, and then stream the trial for the rest of the day. So I'll try to do a mix. But
What microphone you got there?
this is a $100 special off Amazon. And this is actually, I don't know if you saw the beginning of the show. This is where I started in my, like, literally my bed is right there in my bedroom. And
Yeah.
I just built out a brand new studio, but
Nice.
my air conditioning unit in my studio is being replaced, and it's not going to be up and running for like 2.5 weeks. I went to my studio tonight. It was like 90 degrees in the room. I'm like, nope, coming home and doing it from the bedroom because of my AC. So
Yeah, the microphone sounds good.
yeah, I'll send you the deets on it if you want to grab one.
No, I finally got my Shure SM7B about 6 months ago, and I'm very, very happy. I'll keep it for life. Thank you.
Yeah, I have that in my studio. Yep. I have that. So yeah, but this is not a bad little $100 Amazon mic.
There you go.
Anyway, Kurt, thank you so much. I appreciate you jumping on. And if you ever want to come over and hang out again, let me know.
All right, cool. I'll stick around and hope to see you around. I'll check out with you later.
Awesome. All right. Have a
All right,
good night.
bye-bye.
All right. All right, everybody. We're going to wrap this one up. I had two awesome people on tonight. Natalie Lawyer Chick and Kurt from Uncivil Law. Very spontaneous. Kurt jumped up here. That was awesome. And such a good show, and have his humor here. And I knew he would bring it, which was great. And Natalie, I hope I have some more time with her again. I'd love to do it again. But two great collabs tonight. Awesome stuff. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. No trial tomorrow. There's going to be a hearing for Aiden Turtleboy Carney. I'm probably going to go out to that hearing tomorrow and stream outside of court. I'm just going to set up the thumbnail and get all that going for tonight. And I believe that's at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So I'll probably be down there about an hour before, streaming and hanging out, bring content to all of you. And hopefully you can join me tomorrow. And then Friday, I will be off from work. So I'll plan on streaming court on Friday, all day Friday. So thank you all for jumping in. If you watch this on replay, make sure to comment, thumbs up, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And go check out those two amazing channels, Natalie Lawyer Chick, and go check out Kurt at Uncivil Law. I'm sure you're all subscribed, but if you're not, they have two powerhouse channels, and check them out. All right, everybody, I'm going to take off. Everybody have a great night, and I'll see you all back tomorrow. Peace.
Take the change and set the trend.